Everyone else who fell into this world woke as a human player with a system. I came back as the apex monster itself, a red dragon, except a helpless meter-long hatchling whose mother would sooner eat me than feed me. Then a template turntable spun in my mind, grafting the power of every beast I killed onto my body. I stole pterodactyl wings, bullied my nest siblings, and bent boarmen, orcs, and centaurs to my will. I started as prey, so I made the wilderness my hunting list. Like the video, hit subscribe, and the next part lands in your feed, automatically. Easy trade. The path that led here is the part worth telling. Let me start from the first hour. West of the human kingdoms, there's a long winding road, and the deeper you follow it, the further it carries you into a vast and boundless wilderness. This is the territory of monsters. Endless barrens and rolling mountain ranges and forests and inland lakes that run past the horizon. A black-feathered, red-beaked falcon drifts over the plains with its golden eyes fixed on the tangled red and green grass, hunting. It finally settles near the peak of the highest summit of an unnamed range, where a wide cave breathes hazy smoke and the air hangs thick with the acrid stench of sulfur. In that nest lies Solaris Nestburner, a young adult red dragon who laid her first clutch of eggs 22 months ago and now waits on the moment of hatching. A fire pit ringed with rocks sits before her, the unburnt charcoal inside it radiating heat that bakes the 4 giant crimson eggs and holds the temperature steadily above 100 degrees. One of the oval eggs wobbles. A crisp crack runs across it, spiderweb fissures bloom, and a round little head pushes out. The darkness, the narrowness, the press of something on every side, it all sets the young man inside struggling on instinct. His limbs kick and his head shoves upward until a thin barrier shatters, the pressure vanishes, and a strange new scent floods his nostrils. I open my eyes, dazed, and the world that swims into view is all dark brown stone walls, and in front of me, a crimson mountain range. As my mind clears and that mountain range resolves into its true shape, my pupils shrink and my heart nearly stops. It is no mountain. It is a beast of scales and horns, over 17 meters long, with a wingspan of nearly 23. Its whole body is sheathed in crimson scales that shimmer like metal, a pair of horns curving back from its skull. A red dragon, the thing that should only live in fantasy stories. And it is staring straight at me. Where am I? Who am I? What happened? The 3 great questions of existence surface in my mind at exactly the wrong moment. The red dragon is losing patience, its charcoal red pupils narrowing, its lips peeling back from snow-white fangs. Some impulse surges up from deep in this new body, and I shout the only thing it knows to shout, my true name, Saul Heliozog Ethermog Sun Crier Throat Burner. The moment the name leaves me, the heavy air eases, and the ferocious thing lazily lowers itself back down. Only then does the truth settle in. I have been reincarnated as a red dragon hatchling, and the beast before me is the mother of this body. The realization brings me no peace at all. Red dragons are the most powerful and the cruelest of the 5-colored dragons, and they have never known a scrap of family affection. If abandoning their eggs did not draw the punishment of Tiamat, more than 90% of red dragons would simply ignore the eggs they lay. It runs the same across the other 5-colored dragons, which is why their hatching rates fall so far below the metallic dragons. Even when the eggs do hatch, the mothers do the bare minimum before driving the young out of the nest. So the survival rate for these hatchlings is brutally low. Blue dragons manage about half, green and white and black dragons hover near 40%, and red dragon hatchlings come in lowest of all, under 30. Dredging that knowledge up out of some past life, I shudder and go even more careful. Wonderful. I get the apex predator body and the worst odds on the board. Dragging my own length, slick with wet mucus, I crawl the rest of the way out of the shell and twist around to take stock of myself. I am about 1 meter long, roughly the size of a pony, all big head and short neck, my body wrapped in tender red scales with 2 limp fleshy wings flopped across my back. Even a true dragon sitting at the very top of the food chain comes into the world weak. The claws are not yet sharp, the scales not yet hardened, with nothing to kill by but a mouthful of fangs. So what does a newborn hatchling do first? The nature documentaries from my old life answer for me. Lick the mucus off. That is a job the mother is supposed to do, but with a red dragon there is no point even hoping. I twist my flexible neck and clean myself in long, greedy gulps. Once I am mostly dry, I turn to the broken eggshells scattered on the ground and start crunching them down. For true dragons, the shell is both armor before hatching and the first feast after. It is rich in energy and packed with precious substances and trace elements that activate the body, fuel the first growth spurt, and harden the scales and claws fast. My altered sense of taste makes the shells I expected to be disgusting taste exceptional instead, and before I notice I have swallowed every fragment in reach. Delicious. I'll take it. Sleepiness creeps in, but I do not give in to it. Instead, I stare at my unhatched brothers, whose 3 remaining eggs have begun to rock and split. I tiptoe over on my bulging little belly, snatch up a fallen fragment, and stuff it straight into my mouth. Soon all 3 break through their shells one after another, 2 of them managing to shout out their long and tongue-twisting true names, while the last stays silent. The mother's eyes narrow dangerously, since she never expected a lowly dragon beast in her very first clutch. Without hesitation, she extends a massive claw, snatches up the nameless hatchling, and carries it out of the nest. The other 3 of us watch with trembling hearts and do not dare move. When 2 of them wake to the hunger gnawing at them and try to eat their eggshells as their dragon inheritance instructs, they discover that some unknown amount of their shells has gone missing. That sets them off instantly, and they wheel around to glare at the thief sitting nearby. That would be me, a piece of shell still pinched in my claw, showing not a flicker of embarrassment at being caught. I swagger as I stuff the shell into my mouth and let out a defiant little burp. I know exactly what red dragons are: powerful and violent and conceited and unruly, and nowhere in that list is anything resembling familial love. From the moment they hatch, siblings of the same clutch are already rivals. There is no sentiment to waste, so naturally you strike first to take the upper hand. The 2 of them shriek out their threats, swearing I will pay a bitter price, vowing to break my bones and tear the scales off my body one by one. Faint blue lines of text flicker across my vision. With each outburst, essence of mental power fragment. One point, then another. I have no time for that now, because both furious hatchlings have already let out sharp roars and are charging me. I feel no fear either. My short limbs kick off the stone and I lunge to meet them. Newly hatched dragons carry the dragon's heritage, but that vast, complex flood of information takes a long time to release. With our breath organs undeveloped and our magic thin, this fight is no different from a brawl between wild beasts. Here my head start matters. I hatched nearly an hour before they did, and I ate far more eggshell, so my muscles are fully activated and my scales and claws have already begun to harden. That means more strength, tougher defense, sharper teeth and claws. The 3 of us tumble together like provoked alley cats. At first the other 2 manage to team up against me, but their personalities give out fast, and the moment they get heated they stop caring whether they maul each other. Fine red scales and blood spray everywhere. Dust clouds up and cakes all 3 of us in grime. With our claws still soft and a true dragon's tough constitution, the fight looks worse than it is. At some point, the mother has crawled back into the nest. She watches the 3 of us scuffling. Her glowing charcoal pupils contract, and she lets out a low roar that rolls over us like a gale and freezes our bodies stiff mid-motion. Every instinct screams that if we do not stop right now, something terrible arrives immediately. It is not that she cares whether we kill each other. 1 or 2 dead would mean nothing to her. She simply will not tolerate noise in front of her while she rests. I shoot a glance at my stunned siblings, roll free, clamp my teeth on the largest piece of shell left on the ground, and slink into the shadows of a corner. The other 2 snap out of it with their rage rekindling, but under her gaze neither dares act, so they eye each other warily and race to devour the rest of the shells before the other can. Even without me they are competitors, and since they cannot fight, they can only eat faster and more. They do not stop until every shard is gone and even the eggshell dust has been licked off the floor, and then each finds a corner, curls up, and lies down. A true dragon's digestion is monstrously powerful, and those fragments convert fast into a deep sleep. In that sleep, a vast tide of information rises, the heritage unique to true dragons granting us a basic understanding of the whole world, the common languages, the common races. For me, the dream wears a human shape instead. In it, I am on a break at work, idly opening my phone to kill time, when a post about beast battles catches my eye. An argument over which dragons are stronger, the dragons of Dungeons and Dragons, or the dragons of the Monster Hunter world. The replies run hundreds deep, everyone arguing. As a veteran keyboard warrior, of course, I have to weigh in, posting that Dungeons and Dragons has the higher ceiling while Monster Hunter has the stronger average, that you really have to consider it as a whole. The dream cuts off there and dissolves into white light. The 3 sleeping bodies begin to swell. The limp wings on our backs grow bone and stand upright. The scales darken. 2 small bumps push up on each skull, and the old bright scales gray over and flake away from the head down, revealing tougher new scales beneath. Normally a single true dragon eggshell holds just enough to fuel that first sleep, but I ate so much that I developed fast, my frame growing a full size sturdier. My siblings are not so lucky. Without enough to draw on, they will not starve in their sleep, but their less important organs cannot finish forming. While their bones lengthen, their muscles cannot keep pace, leaving them skin and bone, their shapes faintly warped. About 15 days later I wake, though I keep my eyes shut, because a blue light screen has appeared in the dark. It marks me out plainly, my name reading Saul Heliozog Ethermog Suncrier Throatburner, my race Red Dragon, my age group Hatchling Dragon, my challenge rating 3, my talent template none. At the very bottom of the screen sits a huge wheel, built in 7 nested rings. Each ring is carved into little cells by dividing lines, more cells the further out you go. Beneath the wheel are the words Essence of Mental Power, and after them a quantity, 0.17. When I focus on it, I realize that as long as I feed it Essence of Mental Power, this giant wheel will draw prizes for me. The dense outermost ring of countless little cells holds all the miscellaneous junk of the Monster Hunter world. Wild fruits, ores, soil, monster drops, and each draw out there costs a single point. The ring just inside holds weak environmental creatures and costs 10 points to draw. Inward from there, the rings run in order. Low ecological niche, medium ecological niche, high ecological niche, elder dragon, and forbidden. The cost multiplying tenfold at every step. So with a mere 1 million essence of mental power, I could draw something out of the forbidden ring, a thing fit to stand against gods. That alone makes a dragon's heart pound. The only problem is where I am supposed to find that essence of mental power in the first place. My instinct tells me it will not be that easy, and when my attention drops to the essence of mental power line, a detailed description unfolds. Every living creature holds mental power. The higher its intelligence and strength, the stronger that power. An intense emotion is how it shows on the outside. As long as a creature aims an intense emotion at me, anger, hatred, love, or worship, I harvest essence of mental power from it. So this is the same trick gods used to drink in faith. The thought has barely formed when I open my eyes. Two thin, vicious dragon faces burst into view inches from mine. I demand of Carp and Sistana what exactly they think they are doing sneaking up on me. Sistana had woken from her own deep sleep with hunger churning in her gut and rage and hatred flashing across her gaunt face. She had not eaten enough shell, so the sleep had failed her, her length crawling from only 4 feet to 6, her muscles shriveled and atrophied, leaving her skin and bone. A true dragon is already more than half neck and tail, and that frame made her look painfully small and thin. She swore at me by name and vowed she would make me pay. Then, crawling out of her dark corner, and finding no mother and no food waiting, she could only scrape gravel off the floor and choke it down, her stomach wringing what little nourishment it could from dead rock. She had meant to settle the score with me at once, but a second thought told her that in her state she stood no chance. She turned and crawled toward where Carp slept instead. So when I greet the pair of them, telling them they clearly learned nothing last time if they dare show their faces to me again, the blue text obligingly scrolls past, essence of mental power fragment, again and again. Only now do I understand where that 0.17 came from. I never expected my cheap siblings to have a use, but they do, so I had better entertain them properly. I drag my 7-foot length up off the ground, shake off half a month of dust, and arch my spine like a cat. One sweep of my pale gold eyes makes the scales flare along both their bodies, and instead of backing off, they rush me together. A true dragon's constitution means I feel no stiffness at all after lying so long. I plant my limbs and spin, my tail lashing out. That tail looks absurdly long against the rest of me, and it cracks like a whip across the air in a pale red arc and slams into Sistana's skull, in the lead. The whip crack force lands with a sharp snap. Her fine scales burst at the impact, blood seeps out, and the pain and dizziness stall her cold. Carp leaps over his sister at once, his whole body soaring high before he crashes down on me, and his weight tackles me to the ground. In the next instant, my claw closes hard on his throat, keeping his jaws off me while I flip and pin him underneath. By then, Sistana has recovered and pounces onto my back, her newly vicious claws raking, her mouth opening for my nape. The pain tears a roar out of me. I shake violently and snap my wings open, flinging Sistana clean off. Then seize the moment, my claws hammering down on Carp's head, one after another until his skin splits and his flesh gapes, and his will to fight is gone. By the time Sistana regroups to charge again, she finds my foot already planted on Carp's skull and my eyes fixed on her. I tell her flatly that it is her turn, this reptile who only knows how to ambush. The fight ends in my total victory, which is exactly the reward for seizing the initiative. One step ahead means every step ahead. Take more food early and you grow faster and a stronger body wins more food in the next fight. The whole thing spins into a virtuous cycle. If I could, I would not treat my siblings this way, but survival here is simply that cruel. I still remember the mother cat my grandmother once kept back when I was human. The litter she bore, too many kittens for too little milk, all of them scrambling. 2 failed to nurse at the first chance, and a few days on they were visibly smaller. Not long after, they died of starvation. That was ordinary animals. Among red dragons, cruel and tyrannical by nature, the contest only runs harsher, and if I do not crush these two, they will crush me. There is no third option. I watch their limping, pathetic shapes retreat and grin a mocking grin, then twist my neck around and start licking my wounds clean. All 3 of us are battered and bloody, but a true dragon heals so well that infection is no concern and the cuts will close before long. Once I am mostly cleaned up, I summon the wheel again. The balance behind essence of mental power has climbed from 0.17 to 0.5, all of it harvested from the 2 of them raging at me just now. In another couple of days I should manage a lowest tier draw, and I hope I pull something good. With that I rise and leave my corner to explore. A dragon's dark vision lets me see clearly even in the gloom. The place is a natural limestone cave, scorch marks on the walls, the back half sealed off by a giant boulder. The moment I wonder whether that is the mother's treasury, my heart slams against my ribs, and greed claws up wild inside me. But the rational human soul under all that smothers the bloodline's frenzy and steers me away from the boulder, keeping my attention on the front half of the cave. After wandering a while, I form a basic read of my situation and feel a real pang of disappointment. There is no fine craftsmanship anywhere, no subordinates, no peculiarities left behind by a red dragon's long residence. Every sign says this is just a cave the mother stumbled on at random to lay her eggs in. It makes sense, since her length is only a little over 17 meters, the average for a young adult red dragon. That is an age where a dragon has only just gained the strength to hold a fixed territory and recruit a few subordinates. How could she have a vast domain? That is bad news for me. Chromatic dragons never bother raising their young, and a strong one might at least have minions glance their way now and then, but one without even subordinates leaves nothing. So my mood sinks. For several days afterward, neither I nor the other 2 see her at all, the hunger burning in our bellies like fire. Not daring to leave the cave, we are reduced to swallowing stones. It is nearly a week before wings beat outside again and a fiery red shape comes whistling home, trailing the thick scent of blood. The mother lands hard on the platform jutting from the cave mouth, two streams of white gas firing from her nostrils, ignited by the heat inside her into twin tongues of flame that leave scorching trails in the air. Clutched in her massive claws is a giant wild boar, its tusks thick, its bristles standing up like needles. Clearly a vicious old boar near a ton in weight, the kind of beast that would charge a tiger head-on. Now its spine has been crushed and warm blood gurgles from its mouth in thin streams across the platform. The cloying reek of it rides the forest wind into the cave and snaps my appetite wide awake, my head jerking up, longing plain in my eyes. Carp and Sistana, already half-starved, get a green glint in their gaze and bolt straight out toward the platform without a thought. What meets them is not maternal love, but a merciless beating, her broad wings sweeping forward like a city wall and batting both of them away, to crash on the ground. She lets out a warning roar, lowers her head alone, and begins tearing into the boar in great gulps with no intention of sharing. A flicker of mockery rises in me watching the two of them sprawled there, until I remember my own situation is no better, and the mockery curdles into gloom and I let my eyes drop. The three of us watch her feast with longing, and only after she has eaten her fill, licked the blood from her mouth, and crawled back inside to lie down do we dare creep toward the remains. Strong and sturdy as I am, I take the lead and snatch the chunk with the most meat still on it. When Sistana tries to muscle in, I turn and knock her flat with a tail whip. This is the first true food I have eaten since hatching, beyond the eggshells. My stomach has been churning with acid for so long that I no longer care whether raw meat is disgusting. I only want to fill my belly. The shreds of meat vanish fast and I crush even the hard bones with my sharp dragon teeth and swallow them whole. It is nowhere near enough for my appetite. Hatchling dragons run their digestion like high-temperature furnaces, eating and digesting at once, converting food to energy as fast as it goes down, and our stomachs stretch like pocket dimensions to hold enormous loads. So I instinctively turn my gaze toward my brother and sister. The two of them have learned their lesson from the eggshells and gotten smarter, gulping the food in their claws even faster than me, and by now there's nothing left. I refuse to give up and keep rummaging through the boar's fur and the scraps on the ground, hoping for anything more to eat. That is when a long wooden shaft catches my eye. I pick it up and find one end fitted with a jet black gleaming arrowhead. An arrow, though several sizes larger than the heavy arrows I knew as a human. What creature fires an arrow like this, and why is it stuck in a boar the mother dragged home? Before I can chew on the question, a grumpy growl rolls out of the cave. She tells the three of us idiots to clean up the trash once we are done eating, that she does not want to see a single scrap when she wakes. Frozen mid-rummage, I round on Sistana and Carp and bark at them that they heard her, that the two idiots had better clean the ground this instant. That sets them off, both roaring in protest. Saul having no right to give orders, the mother having clearly said all three of us should clean, so why am I shoving it onto them? I curl my lips back off my fangs and laugh coldly, raise a front claw, clench it into a fist, and shake it. I ask whether they really mean to disobey their elder brother, because it sounds like they both need more education. Just as we are about to come to blows, the mother lifts her head and growls that if she hears us shouting and disturbing her sleep again, she will twist our heads off. We lower our heads at once and clean in silence, because with a red dragon's temper that is no idle threat. Clearing the scattered scraps is no simple matter, and we have no idea where to dump them. But red dragons have their own method. We gather dry branches from near the cave, pile them over the scraps, then rear up, brace ourselves, and breathe forward. And though our breath organs are still half-formed, they manage wood easily. One large fire snake and two small ones spit from our mouths with wisps of black smoke and catch the branch pile, the flames rising and scorching the leftover meat and bloodstains black, carbonizing them until they mix into the ash and leave no trace. After that one breath, Sistana and Carp only feel hungrier, complaining that they want to eat a whole wild boar, a whole one. With their innate fire resistance, they sprawl right beside the bonfire and let the flames lick their scales as they whine. I ignore them and find a quiet corner to lie down alone, eyes shut as if resting, while in truth I am working the giant roulette wheel in my mind. Thanks to their selfless contributions, the balance has finally reached 1.52, enough for the simplest draw. 1 point of essence of mental power turns to starlight and sinks into the wheel, the outermost ring rumbling into a spin before it eases to a stop on a simple diamond shape. I focus and more detail surfaces. A small piece of dragon crystal, and the system asks whether to extract it now. There is even an option not to take it immediately. Considering the cave is hardly safe, I decline, and I let my memory turn over what I know about dragon crystals. It is highly condensed ley line energy, and in the Monster Hunter world it lies everywhere in the Elder's Recess, counted a somewhat precious ore. Though precious is generous, since there it piles up like mountains, as common as roadside rocks. Still, the result makes me squint with pleasure. A true dragon's digestion can break down almost any common substance, and flesh and blood are fine food for a red dragon, but hardly the best. Only gems and metals saturated with magic are the ideal food, and an energy-rich dragon crystal sits squarely in that category. I am thoroughly sick of living on rocks. Standing on a jutting stone inside the cave, reared up on my full upper body, waving my short, thick front claws, I lecture Sistana and Carp with passion. I ask whether they truly mean to live on stones forever like worms, reminding them that we are red dragons, noble and powerful and cruel, fit only for the freshest flesh and blood. Out there past the cave, the vast mountains and plains hold countless prey waiting to be hunted. It would have been fine if I had never tasted anything but stone, but I happened to eat those boar scraps a while back, and the smell of flesh has haunted me ever since. The mother goes out every 2 days, and every time she returns with empty claws after eating her fill. Never mind caring for us, she never even leaves us a chance to scavenge. So I have decided to go hunt for myself. The trouble is that arrogant and powerful as adult red dragons seem, their hatchling stage is the most wretched of almost any true dragon. Metallic dragons all tend their young with great care, and even the neutral gem dragons and ferrous dragons will not simply abandon theirs. Among the 5-colored dragons, blue dragons treat every young dragon as property and will offer some care, the price being labor once the young grow up. Black dragons in swamps, green dragons in forests, and white dragons in glaciers and snowfields are all born with natural camouflage to survive their hatchling stage. Red dragons are the exception. Our bright red scales blaze in nature, sending prey fleeing the moment they spot us and drawing the eyes of dangerous predators. That is why most red dragons spend their hatchling stage buried in caves, surviving on dug-up bugs. I do not want to eat bugs, not at all. I want meat, mouthfuls of meat. But a lone hatchling dragon hunting solo has a miserable success rate and little hope of escaping anything dangerous. So I set to work on Sistana and Carp, pushing them to go out as a group. As the saying goes, I do not need to outrun the bear, I just need to outrun my companion. One creature alone meeting a tiger in the wild is as good as dead, but 3 together, and 1 or 2 stand a good chance of getting away. Did I reincarnate into the wrong species? Maybe a green dragon would have suited me better. My nudging works, and Sistana and Carp soon show they are willing. That very night, unable to bear the hunger any longer, the 3 of us quietly crawl out of the cave under cover of darkness. Our dark vision carries us clearly through the dim. From the platform at the cave mouth, the first thing below is a vast spread of low hills, lush and overgrown with weeds, a terrain of earth and stone. By the yellow and green of the interwoven grass and the seed-heavy stems, it is likely autumn, which is good news, because prey fattening for winter means plump, delicious meat. A true dragon's flight is less about flapping wings than a spell-like ability, the wings only assisting. So even with our undersized wings, the 3 of us can glide a long way. Without hesitation, we leap from the platform and glide on the cool night breeze until we land in a thicket of tall grass far off. A 7-foot hatchling dragon sounds large, but most of that is neck and tail. The torso only about 3 feet, smaller than a big hunting dog. So we hide easily in the grass and creep along on light feet, searching. One benefit of the mother's presence is that her fierce aura frightens off most predators, so nothing too dangerous lurks across these hills. Pushing aside a clump of dense weeds, beneath a reed-like plant, we spot a gray, long-eared creature gnawing a grass stem. A hare. My eyes light up and I am about to set the 2 of them on a flanking move when 2 bright red shapes bolt out beside me, Carp and Sistana each shouting that the prey is theirs and no one else can have it. The noise startles the ever-wary hare. Its ears twitch. It kicks off hard and turns into a gray blur and vanishes into distant thorns. The 2 of them cannot stop in time and crash headlong into the thorns. Scales or no scales, small beads of blood pricked out of them. Before they can struggle up, my claws are already fists slamming down on their foreheads. I snarl at the 2 idiots that they cannot even catch. One rabbit yet have the nerve to call it their prey. I grab them both by the neck, haul them up off the ground, lean my round head in close, and glare into their eyes. I tell them to remember that all prey belongs to me, that only once I have eaten my fill may they have a bite. Understand? They are instantly enraged, twisting their bodies, trying to rise in revolt, demanding to know on what basis, swearing it is impossible. But their size means they cannot break my grip, and I just hold them by the scruff and knock their heads together a few times. I ask whether they dare talk back, whether they have no respect at all for their elder brother, whether it is because I am larger and stronger and wiser than they are, and whether those reasons are enough. After another chaotic scuffle and a harsh lesson for my foolish brother and sister, I glance at the little subtitles drifting at the edge of my vision and feel a flush of delight. Stupid and clumsy and foul-tempered as the 2 of them are, for the sake of that essence of mental power I can spare them a few scraps once they catch something. Generating mental power takes energy, and how could they feel anything intense on an empty stomach? Having unified the team by force, I lead the 2 of them on after fresh prey, advancing from downwind to upwind so our scent stays hidden and a dragon's keen nose can widen the search. The wilderness never lacks prey, only the means to catch it. After a while, the night wind brings the scent of a rock goat lying in a rock crevice, almost blending into the stones. Earned once, the 2 of them do not dare act rashly this time. I narrow my eyes, think a moment, and give my orders in a low voice, telling Sistana to flank from the left, and Carp to circle right to the upwind side, and drive the blue sheep toward me. They grumble at being ordered around, muttering that if it were not for the food, they would not bother listening. Still, they part the grass with their pointed snouts, and move forward carefully. I crouch low among the weeds, hiding as best I can, and wait. Time crawls as the two of them trace curved paths through the thick grass toward the upwind side of the blue sheep. A breeze passes, and the sleeping herbivore lifts its head, sensing some threat of danger in the air. Its small ears twitch constantly, and though its horizontal pupils give it a wide field of view, the poor night vision common to herbivores keeps it from seeing its surroundings clearly. Then comes a faint snap from upwind, a dry stem under a careless step. The blue sheep leaps from its crevice and bolts the opposite way on all fours. The hurried hoofbeats lift my spirits and I fix my gaze on the swaying grass ahead. Closer, closer. Its path looks about to cross mine, but when it is only 5 meters off it, suddenly veers left and flees another direction. I'm exposed. What happened? There is no time to overthink it, so my short, powerful limbs kick off the ground and hurl my 7-foot body into the chase. A true dragon's power is comprehensive, its body shaped like a reptile but structured closer to a feline. All great strength and rapid, explosive movement. Even newly hatched, I am not slow over a short sprint. Blue sheep are no antelopes built for running anyway, better at scaling steep rock faces than fleeing across open ground. So the gap closes. Once it narrows enough, I spring, the lift from my flapping wings carrying me straight onto the sheep's back. My claws pierce its hide and lock me in place. My flexible neck darts down, and my mouth, which can open past 90 degrees, clamps onto its throat in a single bite. Even counting in every kind of magic and supernatural trick, a dragon's bite is among its deadliest weapons. My body may only be 7 feet, more immature foal than monster, but my bite force outstrips a crocodile of the same size. The sheep thrashes wildly, but with its throat pierced and its arteries crushed, its brain starves of oxygen and it soon goes still. I roll off and scramble up, opening my blood-stained mouth to gulp air. The chase no great strain on the body, but the mental tension leaving me wrung out. My starving stomach gives me no rest. I turn back and tear into the still steaming mutton. The pungent blood is sweet as candy to a dragon's nose. Sistana and Carp catch up from behind, crowing that they caught it, snarling at me to stop because part of it is theirs, their eyes glowing red as they watch me gorge. They mean to pounce without a thought, but I whip around, force them back with my tail, and warn them with a low growl that I caught this and it is mine. So what do they think they are doing? They are not convinced, crouching and baring their teeth, roaring that without their help I could never have caught it, demanding I hand it over before they stop being polite. I only lift my head in contempt and ask whether 2 losers I have already beaten really dare talk big, whether I have not taught them enough of a lesson. Then, as if struck by a thought, I reach out a claw, grab the sheep's head, tear it off along with 2 racks of ribs and toss them toward the pair. Since they played some minor insignificant role, I tell them I shall be merciful, that this is their reward. Eat. Looking at the all but meatless bones in my condescending tone, their rage flares instantly, and beneath my line of sight the lovely little phrases keep appearing. Essence of mental power fragment. 1 point at a time. They sneer that I cannot brush them off with trash, demanding I hand over the sheep leg under my claw, and they bypass the dusty head and ribs and close on me step by step. I just grab a leg and stuff it into my mouth. While tearing off a bite, I tell them unhurriedly that they had better think this through, that even together they are no match for me, that if they lose they will not have even this much to eat. Then I propose that whoever turns around and grabs the meat first gets it all. Struggle flickers in their eyes. Their last 2 fights gave them no advantage, and this one likely would not either, and the thought of having the head and both racks of ribs all to oneself is too much. They glance at each other from the corners of their eyes, and once the seed of distrust is sown it takes root and shoots up into a towering tree. In the next instant both turn their heads and lunge ferociously at the head and ribs, shouting at each other to let go, each claiming the meat for itself and snarling that the other is a lowly reptile. In a blink, Sistana and Carp are rolling into a ball, their unity gone, and I cannot help laughing heartily, my pale gold pupils full of mockery. 2 idiots. While they fight, I eat faster, tearing off large chunks and swallowing them whole without chewing, since a true dragon's stomach handles anything and indigestion is no concern. By the time the pair realize what has happened, nearly all the meat is already inside me, and they are left to pick at scraps and bones. They keep up their chatter the whole way back to the nest, swearing they will never hunt with me again, telling me not even to think about it. I could not care less. My stomach is half full anyway, and if they really got too noisy, I could just beat them up as a post-meal pastime. Near the cave, I invent an excuse, part ways with the 2 of them, and turn off into a distant patch of thorny bushes. All this time I have been eating soil and stones, and though a true dragon's gut can process them, the energy yield is pitiful, and the rest is just waste, leaving my stomach bloated and uncomfortable. I lift my slender tail, push with a little effort, and a long dark gray mass passes smoothly out. At once I feel pounds lighter, a relief and clarity running through me from the inside out. I have heard that a true dragon's droppings are super fertilizer, able to double crop yields, cultivate certain magical plants, even strengthen some spells, valuable as an additive for alchemy potions or a medium for transmutation, fetching a decent price, so perhaps I should. My instinct for wealth and my bloodline stinginess mean the sight of my own excrement brings no disgust, only calculation over how to wring every bit of value out of it. The next instant I shudder hard and hurriedly shovel a heap of dirt over it with my hind legs to bury it. By now, Sistana and Carp should be back at the nest, and with my own scent masking the spot, this counts as relatively safe ground. So I summon the giant spinning wheel again, tap my will gently on the one-lit icon, and choose to withdraw. The air ahead ripples like water, and a translucent, faintly glowing crystal, about half a meter long and as thick as my fist, appears out of nothing before me. Through my keen sense of magic and energy, I can feel a vibrant life force pouring off this dragon crystal. It is said to be the energy a powerful elder dragon releases at death, merged with the life force of the planet and finally manifest as solid matter. I have no time to study it. To keep the energy fluctuations from drawing the mother, who could return any moment, I grab the crystal in my claws and shove it straight into my mouth. The red dragon has the thickest throat of all 5 colored dragons, and a stomach extensible as a snake's. Though I choke until my eyes roll back, I swallow the crystal whole even though it is nearly half my own length. My stomach, that high-temperature furnace, sets to work at once, digesting and corroding the crystal's surface bit by bit. Surging energy seeps into my limbs and bones like warm water, my long-starved cells drinking it down like parched sponges. Under that unique energy, some information buried deep in my bloodline begins to wake, shifting from recessive to dominant. The earliest 5-colored dragons and metallic dragons were at their weakest demigod-level beings. Yet today's barely scrape legendary level even at adulthood, so this matters. I shake my head in contentment, energy and vitality flooding me, my body feeling filled to the brim, my slender tail twisting on the ground, like a snake. When I focus on the wheel, I find the cell I drew the crystal from, still lit. Concentrating on it again brings new text, Dragon Crystal unlocked, and I may now spend 1 point of essence of mental power to redeem 1 kilogram. Only 1 kilogram. The greed in my bloodline cannot help complaining. The crystal is not heavy, it's massed like ordinary stone. But how big is a 1 kilogram stone, when the piece I just swallowed was easily over 10? Is this stuff not as common as roadside weeds in the wyvern crystal fields? So why can it not be cheaper? But I can only grumble inwardly since the wheel does not react at all. A fixed program untouched by anything outside it. Checking the balance again, after the contributions of Sistana and Carp it has risen to 2.12, enough for 2 simple draws or 2 kilograms of crystal. The piece I just swallowed will keep me digesting for a while, so I do not redeem more. Instead I focus my will on another draw. The outermost ring rumbles and spins, light flickering like neon, before stopping on a sketch of a mushroom. When my will settles on it, the detail appears, a blue mushroom, and the system asks whether to extract it. A blue mushroom, a peculiar thing with a bright blue cap and slender stalk. Eating it produces a weak healing effect, the favorite food of wild boars. This seems useless to me. A true dragon's body is already formidable, healing a minor wound fast on its own, and for a serious wound a fistful of blue mushrooms would do nothing. So the thing is a chicken rib, no meat worth the trouble. What a loss, I mutter, since had I known I would have redeemed a dragon crystal instead, or saved up to draw a creature template. Still, I feel no real heartbreak. It cost a single point of essence of mental power, a zero-cost deal, so it is hardly a loss at all. Warmth keeps rising from my stomach and drags me towards sleep, so I do not linger outside. Flapping my short wings, I set off on all fours back toward the cave at the mountaintop. The mother has not returned, and Sistana and Carp have already shrunk into their corner. Though today's prey was little and most of it ended up in me, the long-lost taste of meat has left the 2 small hatchlings somehow satisfied. They hear me dash in, let their eyes linger on my bulging stomach a moment, then lower their heads in resentment. That should have been their meat, they think, swearing revenge when they grow up. He must have secretly eaten something good, one of them thinks, since his stomach was never this big before, vowing to follow him quietly next time and see. The thoughts churning in the 2 hatchlings turn into several notifications of rising essence of mental power beneath my line of sight, which startles me a little. But considering these are 5-colored dragons, creatures liable to spawn intense negative emotion at any moment, I do not dwell on it. I find a hidden corner of my own, bury my head against my belly, wrap my slender tail around myself, pull my wings over me, and curl into a bright red ball. Since the day I cracked my shell, this is the first time I have truly been full. So tonight, at last, I can sleep in peace. A manic roar tears through the cave and wakes me, the same voice swearing to burn lowly mongrels and hoofed maggots all to ash. My eyes snap open and I spring up in one motion. Limbs gripping the earth, spine arched like a cat's, neck raised as I cautiously scan around. It is the same familiar cave, but at the entrance a raging fire flickers, and over the sound of violent thrashing the mother's roars keep drifting in. What happened? Why is she so furious? Curiosity rises hard from somewhere deep in me, but reason holds me back. Rather than investigate, I shrink as far into my corner as I can, terrified of catching the eye of an enraged female red dragon. In another corner, Sistana and Carp are curled up too, like 2 red stones, not daring to move an inch. For evil dragons, half the danger of growing up actually comes from their own parents. An older dragon might rein its temper in, but with a female red dragon freshly into her young adult stage, I will not gamble on what she might do. After a long while, she finally finishes venting, drags her heavy steps to an open space in the cave, lies down, and falls into a deep sleep. Only then do I dare creep out. my pale gold vertical pupils flickering as I turned to look at her. Across that 17-meter behemoth, the bright crimson scales with their metallic luster are badly damaged, large circular holes scattered through her broad wings, even a fist-sized deep wound on the left of her abdomen. Even with a true dragon's constitution, she is not fully healed. Heavy blood, like molten lava, seeps out now and then, igniting into flame before it even hits the ground. She is injured, and the injuries look severe. What kind of creature could wound her? A young adult red dragon carries a challenge rating of generally 13 or higher, meaning a full party of adventurers all at level 13 or above is needed even to stand a chance. A level 13 adventurer means weapon masters, great knights, deception masters, high mages, all already high-level practitioners. Even such a full party only has a chance, with no guarantee. I quietly draw my gaze back and crawl bit by bit toward the cave mouth, the elastic pads on my paws letting me land as silently as a cat. At the platform, the first things to meet my eyes are blasted shallow pits and shattered stones, large patches of scorched black across the ground, some spots melted. Several wooden poles of varying lengths lie scattered messily about. I reach a claw out to rummage, digging semi-melted arrowheads from the ash and examining them closely. Bows and arrows, maybe javelins too, plus hoofed maggots, and the thoughts spark like flint until I feel I have already guessed the truth. What race in the wilderness is most skilled at archery and uses longbows with heavy arrows? The centaur. There must be a centaur settlement near these hills, and the mother's hunting grounds clearly overlap with theirs. I found a heavy arrow in the boar she brought back earlier, very likely prey stolen from the centaurs. A centaur has the upper body of a human and the body of a horse below the waist. They stand generally 7 feet tall, over 8 feet long, and can reach an exaggerated weight of 2,000 pounds, near a ton. Since the heart and lungs sit in the horse-shaped body, the human upper half is almost solid muscle between chest and abdomen, aside from the esophagus and windpipe. That gives those torsos, already sturdier than an ordinary person's, even greater strength and explosive power, enough to draw longbows over 100 pounds and fire heavy arrows like small spears. The horse-like lower body grants powerful high-speed movement and charging force, making them natural heavy cavalry. Even untrained, an adult centaur carries a challenge rating as high as 3, a match for an ordinary veteran adventurer. Large centaur settlements have no shortage of high-level beings, and even an adult true dragon would not provoke them lightly. Could my cheap mother have led the centaurs back here? When the time comes, she can simply flap her wings and fly off. Though what about me? The suspicion sends an urgent sense of crisis rising through me. I had thought she was merely irresponsible and that I could scrape through a hard life, but I never expected the creature to be an outright disaster. No, I have to prepare early. I cannot wait until the crisis is on top of me to look for a solution. The thoughts whip around inside me and my expression wavers. It is not that I have not considered leaving these mudstone hills, but a hatchling dragon less than a month old lacks both strength and developed wings, so long-distance flight is impossible. And nearly every inch of a true dragon's flesh and blood serves as precious magical material. Running the wilderness on 4 legs would be no different from a child hauling gold through a busy market. In a free America at that. Staying near the mudstone hills while it brings no care still offers some safety, since her fierce aura intimidates some fierce predators. Do not panic. Not yet. The mother might not necessarily lead the centaurs here, and maybe those arrows were never even left by centaurs. I cannot lose my footing before anything is confirmed. I have to stay calm. I shake the cluttered thoughts loose, squat in the shadows of the cave mouth with my pale gold pupils on the endless wilderness, and calmly work through how to respond. First, whatever happens, raising my own strength has to be the top priority. A true dragon strengthens over time even doing nothing, but the speed climbs far higher with active training. I stayed motionless in the cave before purely out of hunger. The little food each day barely enough to fund growth, leaving no surplus for high-intensity exercise. But the dragon crystal made up that deficit, the piece in my stomach still releasing active life energy, steadily covering the shortfall, so I can no longer draw at random. I need to convert all my essence of mental power into dragon crystals to accelerate my body, and if any is left over, I will save it to draw a biological template. As long as I draw a suitable creature, combat power aside, my survival ability will rise significantly. At dusk, the sky runs in a gradient from ink blue to orange-red, the low sun sinking behind the distant hills, its afterglow like molten amber plating the withered weeds in warm gold. A wild skink pokes its head from a crack in the rocks, its grayish-brown body its natural camouflage, its black eyes darting as it hunts for the day's food. Sunset being the active hour for insects, a grasshopper on a stem soon catches its eye, and it lunges and snatches it in its mouth. Just as the skink means to enjoy the meal, a slight tremor runs through the gravel hills, small stones seeming to dance, and a massive iron-shod hoof descends from the sky and crushes it to pulp. Up from that iron-black hoof rises a powerful equine body, but where a horse's head should sit on the neck, there is instead the torso of a robust human male, arms thick with muscle. A longbow is slung over one shoulder, a scimitar and a javelin hung on either side of the lower body, clearly a centaur ranger. Not long after the first appears, a massive cloud of dust billows up along the path he came by, like a surging yellow dragon, and more centaurs spill onto the low hills, dozens by a rough count. Their upper halves are all nearly naked, muscular men, their lower halves equine and reddish-brown, black-gray, yellowish-brown, some even striped or spotted. For lack of iron in the wilderness, or lack of skilled smiths among them, they wear no armor, only simple protection on hooves and chests. Even so, charging in a mass, the force they generate is no weaker than a structured unit of heavy cavalry. An exceptionally tall centaur steps out from the group and asks the first one to arrive whether there is still no sign of that red dragon. He has pure white hair tipped in silver, rare among equines, so that he looks draped in moonlight. Rather than going nearly naked or wrapped in skins like the rest, he wears a white linen robe with silver armor faintly visible beneath, a blanket embroidered with complex patterns over his white back, golden anklets above his 4 hooves. The questioned centaur shakes his head, lays his right hand over his chest, kneels on one knee in salute, and answers with apology in his eyes. Addressing the tall one as Lunaris, he explains that the dragon flew too fast for him to keep up, but that he found this, that it should be nearby, that if they search carefully. With that, he opens his left fist, and lying in his broad palm is a broken red scale. It has been nearly a week since the mother returned injured. Red dragons have always been famous for tyranny and cruelty, leaving the world the impression of mindless brutes, and their behavior often seems to bear that out. But that is only because the greed and arrogance in their bones so often drown their reason and drive them to irrational acts. When truly faced with something that endangers their lives, even the most arrogant red dragon recovers its caution. So during her recovery, the mother kept her outings to a minimum. And even when she did go hunt, she switched to moving under cover of night, all to avoid being targeted by other dangerous hunters, while wounded. It is not until today that her injuries fully heal, and after nightfall she rushes straight out of the cave, her broad wings stirring the night wind and the magic elements, and soon vanishes into the distance. Having watched the whole thing from a corner, I do not know whether my cheap mother is off for revenge or something else. I only hope she will not drag trouble back onto me. When I walk into the moonlight, my size has grown a full circle compared to a week ago. My length from nose to tail tip risen from 7 feet to 8.5. The bumps on my brow bone are up another notch, a small ridge of scales now running along my spine. The ample energy of the dragon crystal has driven my body to develop at high speed, and against Sistana and Carp, who have yet to reach 7 feet, I am now worlds apart. Even the pair of short wings on my back look far more proportional now, thanks to my constant wing flapping whenever I had a free moment this past week. When a part of the body keeps spending energy, the body keeps supplying it, growing it faster, and by that clumsy method I have sharpened my gliding ability considerably, though I still cannot fly freely. That is likely because the magic in my body is not yet enough. A red dragon awakens its first true magic only on reaching the young dragon stage, and long-distance flight will probably wait on that stage too. I wonder what I will get for my first biological template, since among environmental creatures there do not seem to be any especially strong species. A glance at the wheel shows my essence of mental power balance has reached 9.14, enough that I should gather the full 10 tonight for a draw. Then I leap from the platform, the cool night wind snapping the membranes of my wings, and start hunting for the day's prey, my stronger gliding letting me range farther, my pale gold eyes like an owl's, untouched by the dark. I only dare glide near the mudstone hills around the mother's cave. Elsewhere, even under night, certain violent raptors fond of the dark might take my little life. Every 10 minutes or so of gliding I land to rest, then flap up again. After a while, a pair of twitching ears in the thick grass under some bushes catches my attention, so I lower my altitude and ride the night wind in silently, and when I reach a certain distance I half retract my wings and plummet. The whistle of the wind startles the alert prey below, a small deer springing up to flee. But a pair of spread-sharp claws carrying the force of the dive has already stamped onto its back, its spine snapping instantly under the impact, its organs pierced by broken ribs, blood gushing from nose and mouth, dead in a breath. Good luck today, a big one. A full meal again. To keep the blood from drawing other animals, I cannot wait to feast, swallowing the torn chunks straight down without chewing. A hatchling dragon can eat nearly its own weight at once, so by the time my belly bulges, there is very little of the prey left. I leave one hind leg uneaten, grasping it in my claws to carry back. The faint blood scent soon draws Sistana and Carp, and when they look over with red eyes, they find me leisurely licking the fibers from the leg. Noticing their gazes, I turn my head contemptuously, a size larger than the both of them, and ask haughtily whether the two stupid idiots failed to catch prey again today. I suggest they kneel and beg me, and maybe I will show some mercy and reward them with a couple of bones. Anger, jealousy, hatred, and an envy and greed too thick to dissolve. All of it churns in the gazes Sistana and Carp fix on me, so close to overflowing that given the chance they would gladly pounce and take a few fierce bites out of me. But the ever-widening gap in our sizes stands like an invisible wall, and they hesitate to charge recklessly. They only arch their backs and bare their teeth like two angry wildcats, as they shout stubbornly that no one would want to eat my stinking meat, that they already ate their fill outside and are not hungry at all. I give a non-committal chuckle, my eyes gleaming with open mockery, because words might lie, but the notifications of rising essence of mental power fragments flashing in my eyes cannot. Soon the balance passes 10 points. I lick the last shred of meat from the deer leg, toss the clean white bone aside with a soft clatter, and crawl back, unable to contain my excitement, to my usual corner. The dragon crystal I drew before already aided my growth enormously, and if I can draw a suitable biological template this time, it will surely bring a qualitative leap. The 10 points of essence of mental power turn to a trail of starlight and slam into the massive wheel, the outer 2 layers beginning to rotate slowly, light flickering like chaotic neon before it steadies on a small square holding a simple sketch of a pterodactyl. The system congratulates me on obtaining the pterodactyl template and asks whether to withdraw immediately. It warns that once withdrawn it must be loaded at once, and that low compatibility or conflicting energy attributes could cause a loading failure and adverse consequences, though it notes my current compatibility is high. Information about the pterodactyl flashes through my mind, a creature about 4 to 5 meters long with a wingspan of 6 to 7. Its body is scaled in a transition from deep blue to light green, a majestic crest on its head, an omnivorous small pterodactyl primarily inhabiting the ancient forest. I cannot help a flicker of disappointment, since it is a fairly mediocre thing, not much different from a real pterodactyl. In games mostly either food for other monsters or a mount to carry characters across the maps. Wait, carrying across the maps. My eyes light up as I realize I overlooked a key point. An adult male hunter weighs at least 70 kilograms and had a full set of full-plate armor and an exaggeratedly large greatsword, and the total runs 200 to 300 kilograms. Yet a small creature like the pterodactyl can carry a fully armed hunter for dozens, even hundreds of kilometers. The sheer exaggeration of its flight is obvious. If the template performs as it did in the game, then, and without hesitation, I fix my attention on the glowing icon and choose to withdraw immediately. A hazy halo appears out of nothing, the faint silhouette of a wingspread pterodactyl within it, like an amorphous spirit, staring into my pale gold pupils with eyes that emit white light. Time seems to freeze, a long while and a brief instant at once, and then the ball of light lunges forward and crashes into my body. Heat explodes through me, and the subtitles keep flashing. Pterodactyl template loaded successfully. Fusion in progress. Then comes a list: sharp fangs and claws, tough scales, omnivorous digestive system, dual respiratory organs, all of them too low a version compared to the host, and so optimized into pure life energy. The resilient wings are retained, the flexible flight retained, and a final note tells me to prepare enough food in the coming time to meet the consumption of body modification. My whole body feels soaked in a hot spring, warm and cozy, the area of my wings in particular burning hot. But red dragons have such high fire resistance that I have never heard of one dying from heat, and the hotter it runs, the better I feel. The small deer I just ate was already mostly digested, and under the surging heat the remaining portion finishes instantly, the abundant nutrients and energy pouring into my body, the wings on my back like 2 thirsty mouths frantically gulping it down. Beneath the bright red scales the muscle contours of the wings sharpen, the metacarpals and phalanges slowly lengthen, and after only a short while a wave of hunger rolls through my stomach. Meanwhile the wings have already grown a size, the coracoid and ulna in the shoulder blade area thickening until they surpass even the limbs below. When I flap them with force, the tough membrane stirs up a great volume of air with a muffled thud, the reaction pushing my body so that I actually lift off right where I stand. Most true dragons and birds need to push off the ground with their legs for enough lift early on, let alone a hatchling dragon with undeveloped wings, and those capable of vertical takeoff are either outstanding in magic or built for flight. Red dragons are neither, since though we hold the largest wingspan among the chromatic dragons, we also carry top-tier weight, better suited to straight-line sprints and long-distance raids. The strongest flyer among the 5-colored dragons is actually the skeleton-thin black dragon, which can hover in the air like a hummingbird even without magic, demonstrating superb skill. My current wingspan ratio has definitely passed that of most red dragons my size, comparable to the mutant individuals. I flap excitedly, fighting to stay airborne within the cave. These wings not only grant full flight earlier, but let me take off from a standstill, putting distance between me and the ground faster to dodge sudden danger. That alone makes the 10 points worth it, and judging by the subtitles, more abilities seem to have been converted into pure life force. The source perhaps of that warm surge still in my body, though I cannot tell what effects they will have. Noticing no other changes, I soon cannot withstand the hunger, and before dawn I charge out of the cave, whipped up in a whirlwind. The moment I clear the entrance, the vast world makes my heart feel suddenly clear and bright, and I beat my wings hard and climb, where before I could only glide at 100 or 200 meters, and now feel no height limit, pulling endlessly upward. But a chill night breeze sweeps past and clears my feverish, excited head in an instant, and I quickly descend. Improved flight and enhanced survival or not, I am still nowhere near a match for certain ferocious creatures that haunt the high altitudes. Keep a low profile. Keep it low. Once the day comes that I draw the Valstrax template, I will surely trample every creature under my feet. Stronger wings make hunting almost effortless, and in the days that follow I come home stuffed nearly every trip out. Whether it is the steady glut of food or that lingering life force still working in my marrow, my growth speeds up yet again, my length stretching another foot in only a few days until I run close to 10 feet from nose to tail. The basic information beneath the wheel in my mind ticks up to match my challenge rating climbing from 3 to 4. Everything is pointing the right way, and yet I cannot make myself feel any joy, because my cheap mother has been gone far too long this time and still has not come back. A normal hunting trip never runs past a day, maybe 3 at the outside, but more than 5 days have crawled by since she last took to the air, and that is more than enough to make me suspicious. At first I let myself believe she had simply flown off to take revenge on whatever wounded her, but the longer the silence stretches, the more certain I become of the uglier answer. She has abandoned her hatchlings and run. Chromatic dragons keep nothing resembling parental love, and a young adult female can lay a fresh clutch nearly every year, so to her the 3 of us are less children than an inferior breed of pet or property, not worth a second thought. What sours my mood is not being left behind, since I expected nothing from her anyway. But the reason behind it. Put her old wounds together with this flight, and the conclusion writes itself. The wretched thing led the centaurs straight to us. I cannot stay here. The sooner I leave the better. The centaurs have not shown their faces yet, which most likely means they have not pinned down the exact spot of the nest. But discovery is only a matter of time. 3 living red dragon hatchlings with a full dragon inheritance are worth something close to 3 bars of gold of the same weight. Once they find us, it is over. So I crouch in the shadow of the cave mouth, my pale gold pupils holding the sunlit wilderness, and I decide to move the instant the sun goes down. But first I have to drag my cheap brother and sister along, not out of any tenderness. They are property too, and better property than most, because as evil dragons they spew out a constant fountain of negative emotion, which makes them the highest grade and only source of essence of mental power I have. Abandoning that would be like throwing away a goose that lays for me daily. I crawl back inside, lift the tip of my slender tail, and crack it down across the sleeping Sistana and Carp, and 2 yelps answer the snap as both of them scramble up, rubbing their backsides and glaring murder at me. They demand to know whether I have lost my mind, why I am breaking up their sleep. Looking at the pair of idiots who still do not grasp the situation, I cannot keep the contempt off my face. A creature's wits depend not on how much it knows, but on what it has lived through. And for all their inherited knowledge, these 2 are still hatchlings with rich heads and short fuses, and no sense at all. I tell them flatly that their brains have been eaten by maggots, if they can sleep through this, that they have apparently failed to notice the mother has not come home in days. Sistana only tips up her nose and scratches her rump, sneering that she gets along just fine without the old thing, and Carp nods along eagerly, crowing that he hopes she dies out there so he can inherit her legacy. The fire in my blood surges straight to my head, and without another word I beat both of them soundly. I roar at the pair of damned idiots that the old thing did not die out there. She ran because she met an enemy she could not beat, and that this place is almost certainly exposed. So we have to leave and find somewhere new. They fight back as hard as their little bodies can, but the size gap settles it, and soon they are flattened on the stone, with nothing left but resentful eyes. One wants proof, refusing to believe me. The other has fixed on something else entirely, and asks whether, since the old thing has fled, the treasure she left behind now belongs to him. That second question makes my own heart skip, but I quickly remember what a true dragon's greed is worth, and there is no chance she left a single copper. She would have carried off every portable scrap and swallowed the rest into her stomach before she went. So I tell the naive fools there is nothing in this cave but rubble, and if they do not believe me they can go look, and whatever they find is theirs to keep. The word theirs lights them up like torches, and the pair shoot off toward the back of the cave so fast you would never guess they had just been beaten flat. Curiosity drags me after them, certain as I am that the mother stripped the place. I find the 2 of them clawing at the giant boulder that seals the rear of the cave, and after a frantic effort they haul a gap open and shove their necks inside. Then 2 shrieks tear out of them, wails so heartbroken anyone listening would think their mother had truly died. There is nothing, not 1 cent left behind, they howl, cursing the old hag. Watching from a distance, I let the disdain show again, though I cannot deny a small hollow feeling in my own gut, because I had already been working out what excuse I would use to break my word and pounce the instant they turned up anything good. Only to fatten them for more essence of mental power, of course. I ask whether they believe me now and tell them to pack, because we leave the moment the sun sets. Pack. As if 3 hatchlings living wild in the wilderness have anything worth packing. All they own is a handful of shiny stones picked up on hunts, completely worthless, and yet Sistana and Carp tuck each one carefully into the gaps between their scales, not caring how it digs and chafes. When night comes, the 3 of us glide out of the cave the way we always do for hunting, and after we land we glance at one another and then in unison look to me. I am the strongest and the one who proposed this, so naturally the direction is mine to pick. The trouble is that for all my inheritance I have no more idea where we are than they do. So I choose a heading at random and break into a 4-legged run, hauling the 2 of them off into the dark. Behind us, not long after we go, dense hoofbeats close a ring around that mud and stone hill. A sliver of moonlight creeps up to the cave at the summit, and a broad-knuckled hand reaches down to lift a broken red scale from the floor, and the hunter breathes that he has found us. A true dragon's endurance is something past ordinary reckoning. Our hearts look 4-chambered like a human's, but the muscle is built beyond imagining, so dense that rumor says a stone packed inside one would be crushed to powder by a single contraction. Every drop of blood the heart throws out passes through a strange gland called the basal vessel, which folds activated magic elements into the bloodstream and lifts every physical performance of dragonkind to another level. That is how the three of us run flat out for nearly 2 hours before we finally stop, only a little winded, the mud and stone hills long since vanished behind us. Nothing is left ahead but boundless wilderness, blue-green grass surging in the night wind like waves with scattered trees rising out of low thorn and scrub. Unknown insects chirp in the grass, their tangled noise somehow weaving a strange calm. I cannot say how far I have run, but I put it at dozens of kilometers, maybe 100. Sistana and Carp are not built as tough as I am, and they have their tongues lolling out, begging to stop, swearing it must be safe here, whining that they are starving. The unease in my gut has not fully eased, but I glance back at the two foolish siblings and decide we have run far enough for now. After a short rest, the three of us use the cover of dark to hunt, too wary of our gaudy red scales to fly in unfamiliar country, and working on smell and hearing and sight alone our success rate craters. It takes more than an hour to catch a pair of rabbits. This time I do not feast alone. Under the stunned stares of the two of them, I split the rabbit meat into 3 even shares, because next to a scrap of meat, the essence of mental power matters far more. Let these two go hungry, and they will not only sag in spirit but turn into dead weight if an emergency hits. Once I have swallowed my portion whole, skin and bone and all, I summon the giant wheel in my mind and tap the dragon crystal column. The balance beside essence of mental power drops from 8.14 to 7.14, and a long crystal slightly smaller than a water bottle blooms out of the air. The rabbit was a snack for amusement. This is my real staple. The crystal's live energy snaps Sistana and Carp's heads around, and the moment they see it, their pale gold pupils flood blood red. They gasp that it is a magic crystal and demand to know where I found it, and Carp curses me by name, accusing me of going behind their backs to steal the mother's treasure. Their scales bristle, their backs arch high, and they look one breath away from lunging to snatch it, knowing perfectly well that even together they cannot beat me but with the greed in their blood drowning out reason. I look at the two fools and pull my mouth back into a savage grin. Then I slam the crystal down against a stone, and it shatters into pieces of every size. Both of them shriek in anguish at the sight. True dragons are born with a spell-like ability called appraise that lets us instinctively judge the worth of any metal, ore, craftwork, or piece of gear. And the instant a crystal they could not even name breaks apart, its value in their reckoning plummets. Even though it was never their wealth, watching a heavenly treasure squandered so carelessly stabs them with real heartache, and the heartache curdles straight into fury aimed at me. When they pounce, I simply spring aside, then catch Sistana by a hind leg, swing her up on her own momentum, and slam her down on top of Carp. The whole thing takes under 3 seconds, and the two go from aggressive to a pathetic tangle of rolling bodies. Unhurried, I gather the crystal fragments off the ground, stuff most of them into my mouth, and leave only 2 pinched in my claws. I tell them that if they kneel and beg, I will be merciful and spare them a piece. Scrambling up, they glare and refuse on the spot. Sistana snarling that I am dreaming, Carp huffing that the dignity of a red dragon cannot be profaned. I lift my eyelids lazily, let out an interested little hum, and tell them I will give the bigger piece to whoever kneels first. 2 dull thuds answer me at once, both of them dropping flat as though an invisible weight had pressed them down, and then they wheel and bellow at each other in unison that each knelt first and the big piece is theirs. Even I cannot help my lips twitching at such utter spinelessness, though I can hardly blame them, since they have been beaten down by me so many times that groveling has become reflex. The only snag is that I genuinely did not catch which of them folded first, but it hardly matters, because the ruling is mine. I point a claw randomly at Sistana and declare her movements were a touch quicker, that she clearly respects her elder brother more, so the big piece is hers. Carp howls that it is not fair, that he was plainly faster, and I ignore him entirely, walk to Sistana, look her in the eye, and tell her to eat it. She is baffled, asking eat what, and when she realizes I mean the magic crystal she balks, protesting that it is her treasure and she will not eat it. I tell her it is not her call, and before she can react, my claw flashes out and rams a fragment down her throat. Then I clamp her snout shut and shake it up and down so she cannot spit it back, a trick I picked up in my last life forcing pills down a dog. True dragons can store treasure in their stomachs and bring it back up whole later, but these two have not learned that yet, so the crystal slides down for good, and tears of heartache and humiliation spill from her eyes. Then I turn to Carp with what I am fairly sure is a deeply sinister smile, and ask whether he means to eat his own, or whether he would like my help. If you want your chives to grow thick and green, fertilizer is everything. You cannot just harvest crop after crop while skimping on what you put back into the soil, or the chives only come up thinner and frailer each cutting. The smarter and stronger a creature is, the more intense the emotion it throws off, and the more essence of mental power that emotion converts into. That is the entire reason I am feeding crystals to Sistana and Carp, fertilizing them so they yield me a richer harvest. That is why I will not let two siblings who are not actually as stupid as they act hoard the crystals like gemstones. Why I have to force the things down their throats. Whether it makes them hate me more is a question I answer by inviting the storm to blow harder. Those crystals are near enough pure energy made solid, and once a true dragon's stomach acid breaks them down, they turn into currents of warmth surging through the body. The exhaustion of the run washes away, the gnaw of hunger quietly recedes, and the three of us set off again. I still have no clear destination and, honestly, a corner of me feels lost, so for now it is one step at a time. The goal is to reach a mountain range or a forest, where the broken terrain suits a hatchling's survival far better than this endless flat. We travel most of the night with the scenery barely changing, as if the wilderness has no edge, until a breeze rolls in from ahead carrying a faint stink of dung and a rank unfamiliar musk. My heart sinks with a sense of foreboding I cannot place. My luck cannot be this rotten, to pick a heading at random and run straight into something. I twist back, fix Sistana and Carp with a hard look that cuts their bickering dead, and whisper that they had better shut their mouths because we may be in trouble. Under the threat of my fists, they obey, flattening their bodies until their bellies nearly drag the dirt, and the three of us slither forward like great crimson snakes. The moment we crest the earthen slope ahead, the view opens. Under the starlight, somewhere around 4 in the morning, I see a dozen odd tan tents pitched on the flat clearing below, wood-framed and skin-covered like the yurts of my old life, with stakes driven all around and cattle and sheep tied to them. A settlement. Intelligent life. We have blundered into someone else's territory. By luck, they have not spotted us, so the three of us creep back down the slope and edge around the side bit by bit. Only once we are a good distance off do we break into a flat sprint and put dozens more kilometers behind us. With dawn close, we dig a pit in a dense thicket, squeeze in together, and use our flexible tails to rake the loose soil over ourselves. Almost every true dragon is a perfect amphibian of land, sea, and air, and even fire. Attribute red dragons can breathe underwater, so the slow gas exchange through the gaps in the soil is more than enough to keep us alive. Before long, Sistana and Carp drop into deep sleep beside me, but my head is too crowded with churning thoughts to follow. I had not expected that being reborn a noble true dragon would mean, before I ever got to play the tyrant, a life of hiding and running first. As the morning sun spreads across the land, the night's chill condenses into clear droplets on the tips of the thatch grass. Then a flurry of dense hoofbeats rolls in from the distance, the shudder of iron hooves shaking the droplets loose so they fall like a light rain. A troop of centaurs is racing toward the camp, led by a male with a silvery white horse body and a white linen robe, the sun gilding his streaming hair, his right hand gripping a long chain whose far end drags a red creature across the ground. It is a red dragon no more than 6 feet long, freshly hatched by the look of it, its bright scales somehow frail, its back wings 2 limp, underdeveloped lumps, its hide raw with bloody friction marks as it lets out weak, ceaseless roars. The centaurs left in camp pour out at the noise, and the moment they see the hatchling hauled along behind, they erupt in shouts, calling the silvery one's name over and over, Lunaris. They crowd around, asking whether he caught the big red dragon, marveling at how small the hatchling is, jeering that the damned evil dragon is finally getting what it deserves. Lunaris waves them quiet, hands the iron chain to a guard, and admits with some regret that the cunning red dragon fled with its true hatchlings. This one is only an abandoned dragon beast, he says, a defective thing born without the dragon inheritance, but even so it carries high value, since the dark elves or the tower mages would pay a steep price for it. A centaur with a carmine horse body, a smaller frame, and a full chest steps out of the largest tent and says through gritted teeth that she would rather kill it outright, right in front of those reptiles. Lunaris shakes his head and gently counsels her, naming her Allura, telling her he understands the pain in her heart, but she cannot let hatred rule her. He says the war has already begun, that the blue dragons are forever pushing their territory wider, and the tribe needs more armor and weapons, and this dragon beast can be traded to the humans in the south for exactly that. Allura says she understands, only that she is unwilling, her resentful eyes fixed on the hatchling, her knuckles whiten her fists. Then a steady voice cuts across them, a middle-aged centaur with a brown horse body, long hair, and a thick beard, carrying no armor and only a spear, his eyes glowing with a faint white light, saying he believes he has made a new discovery. A sharp bird cry splits the sky, a peregrine falcon wheeling 1,000 meters up, and its eyes burn with the same white light, the two of them clearly sharing one sight. The middle-aged centaur leads a group up a distant slope and points at the flattened grass on top, telling them to look here, and over there, asking what the long wavy crushing patterns remind them of. A centaur marked with snowflake spots stamps a forehoof, thinks, and ventures that it looks like a snake's trail. And judging by the thickness, no small snake either. Snakes have no claws, the middle-aged one answers, leaning his whole upper body forward on bending forelimbs to push the grass aside with his spear, bearing several regular gouges scratched into the dry soil. And he says this is at least some large lizard, or rather, the captured red hatchling flashes through Lunaris's mind, and his face fills with disbelief as he cries that it is those red dragon brats, demanding to know how they could turn up near the camp. The middle-aged centaur shakes his head, since that is exactly what he too wants to understand, allowing that maybe they came hunting revenge, maybe they are only passing through, but either way the tribe should prepare early. He whistles, and a hawk's cry answers in the sky as the peregrine falcon circles once, picks a heading, and vanishes toward the horizon. And he says he will send his animal companion to find them, but that alone is not enough. They must mobilize more members. Lunaris nods his understanding and gives the order, and the centaurs scatter in every direction like a retreating tide. By the marks in the dirt, these are only hatchlings the size of that dragon beast, so ordinary warriors should be plenty to handle them, and true dragons with a full inheritance fetch an astronomical price caught alive, whether sold to dark elves or tower wizards. My eyes snap open underground, the transparent inner membrane holding back the soil sifting onto my face, my nostrils thick with damp earth. A sudden senseless dread wells up and burns off my sleep completely. I use the little protrusion on my snout to nudge the loose dirt aside, ease my head up out of the ground, and find only the same sunlit wilderness, a few tumbleweeds rolling east to west on the wind. Everything peaceful. Am I overthinking this? I shake the dust off and decide that either way I am done sleeping, so I spring out, flick my tail, and crack it twice across the still sleeping Sistana and Carp, ordering the two lazy swine up because it is time to move. The pain jolts them awake, glaring, complaining that we agreed to travel by night, that the sun is blazing, asking what has gotten into me, that they ran all night and need rest, demanding to know whether I even understand rest. I cannot be bothered to argue, so I just curl my lips and shake a clenched fist, and the two of them wilt like frostbitten eggplants and fall in line, humiliated. Watching the rising essence of mental power fragments tick at the bottom of my vision, I lead them off at a trot in the heading we picked last night. Red is the most glaring color in nature under sunlight, which forces us to keep low and hidden, ready to dive for cover at any sign of trouble. A sharp cry comes from above, some unknown bird wheeling high, probably hunting rabbits or voles. A common enough sight that I pay it no mind. Another dozen kilometers on, the sky finally dims, and the hatchlings mean to stop and hunt. Dragon crystals can feed the energy a true dragon needs to survive, but we are still hatchlings in a stage of breakneck growth, and our bodies demand vast amounts of organic and inorganic matter to build flesh and bone, which crystals simply cannot supply. Today we get lucky and turn up a wilderness boar without much effort. A thing like a warthog, smaller than the forest boars but thicker furred and sharper tusked. Dangerous to an ordinary human and no trouble at all to red dragon hatchlings famous for raw strength. Sistana and Carp take the flanks while I meet it head-on and slam it to the ground in one pass. And a greedy feast follows, the faint scent of blood soon hanging in the air. I claim the choicest cuts and eat my fill, and then, mid-bite, my head jerks up and my eyes lock on the country behind me. That unease rises again, fiercer than ever. A smear of drifting dust shows on the far horizon, and my keen ears pick out, faint and building, the thunder of galloping hooves. Something is coming, and in no small number. The jolt of it has me slapping Sistana and Carp across the heads, where they still gorge, roaring at them to stop eating and run, now, and without waiting for them to catch up to the idea I am already sprinting low to the ground. Flying is out of the question. A hatchling's wings are not finished, and our airspeed would barely beat an ordinary bird 50 or 60 kilometers an hour, which a plain horse can nearly match, let alone centaurs who are magical creatures and faster still. Aloft without the grass to hide us, we would be exposed at once. If there are high-level practitioners among them, we would be caught in a heartbeat. Damn this flat ground, I curse, because in mountains or forests we would have lost them already. My heart hammers with the run, each squeeze pumping nearly a liter of blood through the basal vessels to fold in magic and haul off the fatigue poisons while feeding my muscles a constant stream of power. But the centaurs are a race built for running too, and the hoofbeats behind me are not fading, they are growing, and I understand at once that I will never shake them on speed alone. I have to find another way. Under the cover of a vast thicket, I throw the two of them into a hard left turn, breaking sharply off our path to lose the pursuit. Only the centaurs seem to see it coming, cutting their angle a step ahead of mine and actually closing the gap. My heart drops. Even the most seasoned hunters tracking us from faint signs should need time to observe, and yet these fellows act as if they have X-ray vision, every move I make laid bare under their noses. A few more changes of direction only confirm it, and just as I am racking my brain, an eagle's cry overhead cuts through the fog like lightning. That flat-feathered beast in the sky. I had taken it for an ordinary wild bird, but now I am sure it is a hunting falcon the centaurs trained, and a glance up in the failing dusk finds the tiny black dot circling without pause. I grind my dragon teeth until they creak, wishing I could climb that high right now and burn the thing to ash in a single breath. But a hatchling's flight cannot touch a raptor born for the air, not until adolescence wakes my magic. Then I notice the sky is going truly black, and my heart settles, because nearly every bird is blind in the dark. We are about to slip the falcon's watch, and at our pace the centaurs cannot close before nightfall swallows us. Sure enough, the peregrine falcon's eyes, evolved for bright light, go all but blind as the light dies, no longer able to make out the ground. Its hearing is poor on top of it, slow to react and unable to fix a position, so it can only spiral down unwillingly. The white glow in the middle-aged centaur's eyes fades as well, and he lifts a tired hand to catch his descending companion, then feeds it thin strips of fresh mutton to restore its spent stamina. He remarks that the perception of these three hatchlings is genuinely sharp, that they sense the hunters before anyone got close, that they do not behave like reckless red dragons at all, but more like cunning green dragons. Lunarus gazes out at the black wilderness ahead, his pursuit slowing and finally stopping, his steps gone heavy. A centaur's dark vision is unremarkable, and his endurance nothing beside a true dragon's. And while Lunarus's own strength keeps him from tiring, the rest of his warriors are spent from the long sprint. Allura trots up beside him, her carmine body wrapped in tight leather that traces elegant lines, a short bow and quiver on her back. She drives a forehoof down hard on the stone so sparks fly, asking with bitter resentment whether they are truly just going to let them run. Lunarus shakes his head, the night wind streaming his long hair like dancing tassels, and says there is no sign of the mother dragon, that the 3 hatchlings have plainly been abandoned, that he will spread the rangers out to search, and they will not get away. Far off, the 3 of us finally drop behind a jutting rock to gulp down air. Sistana and Carp manage between gasps that the 4-legged bastards have stopped at last, swearing one day to burn them all to ash, their tongues hanging out so far they look like fat dogs walked too long in summer heat. I am in better shape, my stamina well past theirs, and the vitality I gained loading the pterodactyl template has even stirred something deeper in my bloodline into a strange new vigor. A glance at the wheel shows my essence of mental power back at 8 points, courtesy of the 2 of them, and without hesitation I trade for a dragon crystal, smash it against the rock as before, and toss a couple of shards to the pair. They pounce on the flying fragments like starving dogs, shield them in their arms, and stare at me devouring my own with bloodshot eyes, demanding to know just how many magic crystals I am hiding, whether I found a whole vein. I do not bother explaining and only order them coldly to eat the shards now, immediately, before I use my claws, because this is no time for stinginess and we have to stay at full strength against whatever comes. While they crunch away with pained faces, I turn back to the wheel and cast 5 points of essence of mental power as starlight into the outermost ring. Biological templates are the surest way to raise my strength, but environmental creatures, for all their odd little tricks, are never what you would call powerful. A single low-level monster draw costs 100 points, which on the trickle these 2 provide would take who knows how long to save. Better to gamble on the outer ring and hope something in that ocean of miscellany can turn the board. 5 neon flashes race across the thousands of tiny slots, and stop, and pale blue text unfolds in my sight, congratulating me on drawing a needleberry, a great barrel, a golden dragonfish scale, sticky grass, and fire cell coal, and asking whether to withdraw them now. I run through what I know of each. The needleberry is a strange oval pod packed with needle-like seeds as hard as iron and viciously sharp, fit to load like buckshot. The great barrel is a half-person tall brown wooden cask of high explosives, fitted with a trigger at the top and detonated by spark or hard impact, easily enough to shatter boulders. The golden dragonfish scale is exactly that, a scale off a fish called the golden dragonfish, prized as a decorative trinket. Sticky grass is a succulent whose sap runs thick as glue, and fire cell coal is a superfuel said to release more than 20 times the energy of ordinary coal when it burns. I choose to withdraw the lot, and the air ripples like struck water. There before me appear a clutch of pool ball-sized nuts, a half-person tall cask, a child's palm scale of gold, a green succulent over half a meter tall with oval leaves, and a football of pitch-black coal. Looking it over, I nearly believe I am the dragon god's own favorite, and a bold idea takes shape in my head. I bark at the 2 idiots to get over here and work, telling Sistana to mash the succulent into pulp and not lose a single drop of its juice, and Carp to gather crushed stone, the more the better. The pair crawl over grudging, after their short rest, their eyes sweeping the items and snagging on the gold scale. Is this gold? They breathe. Surely it is gold, demanding again how many treasures I am hiding and where in the world I got it all. I look down on them from my height with open disdain and tell them it is none of their concern, that noble summoning magic is something their lowly bloodlines could never learn in a lifetime, which lights their tempers at once. They snap that we were born of the same mother and share the same blood, that they have never heard of any such summoning magic and I must be lying. I roll my eyes and hold my tone, telling them the very fact they have never heard of it only proves how lowly their blood is, that if the same blood truly ran in us, then why am I the bigger and stronger one? That makes them grind their teeth, Sistana spitting that I am a shameless thing, Carp starting it about how if I had not stolen their eggshells the day we hatched. I cut him off with 2 quick punches and order them not to talk back to their great elder brother and to get to work this instant. Clutching their heads, eyes wide with resentment, they dare not argue and start in. The essence of mental power notifications flashing in my sight tell me they are cursing me with everything they have, and a smug grin spreads over my face. I scoop up the 7 or 8 needleberries, crush them between my thick molars, and the pods split with sharp cracks to spill the seeds inside, fine as steel needles. More than 100 once I have worked through them all. Sistana finishes wringing the juice from the sticky grass, and because she was too rough about it, she is drenched head to tail in the slime. A genuinely disgusting sight. I wave her off from coming closer and point her at the great barrel, telling her to smear the slime over that instead. Once the whole cask is glistening with glue, I set to pressing the needleberry seeds, the crushed fire cell coal, and Carp's gathered stone chips into the surface, and in moments the modification is done. I survey the heap with satisfaction, certain that however hard the centaurs rack their brains, they will never guess a bomb sits hidden under the pile of rubble. Those 4-legged bastards spend their whole lives on the ground, so this once I will be merciful and let them all fly. The problem is luring them to the right spot. Use myself as bait and standing too close could cost me my life, because centaur archery is no joke, a nomad race nearly as deadly with the bow as elves. Stand too far and I lose the timing to set off the cask, and it might blow early or late and waste its power. While I am turning this over, a crisp clip-clop drifts in from the distance and swells, and I know it instantly. Centaurs coming. The iron shoes that spare their hooves and grip the ground also ring out loud against it, a gain that costs them, and by my hearing there are not many of them. My eyes narrow. Instead of fleeing, I give the two of them a look, lower my body and move toward the sound, and after a glance at each other, Sistana and Carp decide to follow. We glide over the waste like great serpents, the soft pads on our paws letting us land in silence. Soon we close within 1,000 meters, and I make out 3 centaurs by my fine dark vision. One brown, one yellow. One black half-naked male torsos atop their vigorous horse bodies, muscle gleaming as if oiled. Split up to widen the search, the bastards, looking down on us. To keep the faint light in our pale gold pupils from leaking out, 2 translucent membranes drop over the eyes of all 3 of us. Every true dragon's eye carries 3 nictitating membranes beneath the lid. The innermost clear to block water and air, the outer 2 translucent to dim the pupil's brightness and color. The 3 centaurs converse in easy tones, never sensing they are watched. It is not from underestimating us so much as from knowing true dragons of this age, half-formed in magic and organs alike, generally carry a challenge rating around 3, while as elite rangers theirs reaches 4. 3 of them against 3 of us is more than enough. I check the wheel and find the slots for my drawn items still lit, and when I settle my will on the fire cell coal, it shows that 1 point of essence of mental power buys nearly 10 kilograms, so I make the trade without hesitation. The coal runs far heavier than ordinary coal, and after a watery ripple, a chunk slightly smaller than the first appears before me, pitch black and irregular. I grab it, open wide and gnaw, and though it is heavy, it is not especially hard, my dragon teeth biting off large fragments to chew down voraciously, until over 5 kilograms of it sit in my stomach and I hand the rest to Sistana and Carp. Red dragons sometimes eat sulfur and combustible minerals to sharpen the power of their breath for a short while. And even with our breath weapons unfinished, this superfuel lets the 3 of us push out something fierce. While the 2 of them crunch their share, the coal in my own stomach begins to digest, a flood of thermal energy rolling out as warmth until it feels like a furnace has been installed inside me. My already high temperature climbs, my crimson scales start to glow, my blood races, and an orange-red light flickers up my throat. Heat, swelling, a burning sting, an actual searing pain in a red dragon, and the pressure of it building from the inside out leaves me desperate to vent. I no longer hesitate. I kick off the ground and charge the 3 centaurs. A streak of blazing fire crosses the silent waste, hauling waves of heat that seem ready to set the dense grass alight, and the 3 battle-hardened warriors catch the strange movement at once. 2 snapping up their longbows, the 3rd leveling a spear. A sharp sense of crisis stings out of my own chest and shoulders, and at the very instant the 2 arrows leave the string, my feet twist and throw my body into an irregular zigzag that slips them clean. I keep changing direction, tracing diagonal half-arcs around the 3 of them, because their equine lower halves give them a brutal advantage running straight but make sharp turns hard, which is exactly why experienced handlers stand at a horse's flank, the safest spot. The air keeps tearing as the 2 strong centaurs work their heavy longbows at the rapid pace of light-hunting bows, thick arrows hammering into the dirt right beside me, some grazing my scales to throw sparks and open thin bloody streaks. My flexible footwork carries me in regardless, until at last I have forced my way to within 10 meters of them. I suck in a deep breath, my chest and belly bulging, and exhale with everything I have. A true dragon's breath is not lung-driven, but something closer to vomiting, the magic of the whole body pouring through the basal vessels to gather in the upper stomach, before strong muscle and a sudden release of power eject it. Every scrap of magic in me has flowed up to that point, and combined with the heat of the burning coal and its undigested dust, it gushes out together. A scorching light flares in my throat pouch, sparks blooming in my open mouth and bursting into raging flame. A river of orange-red fire surges at the 3 centaurs, a thin wisp barely a foot wide at first, that swells into a fan over 3 meters across by the time it reaches them. They never imagined a hatchling 10 feet long could lose such a breath, and so never thought to dodge, only throwing up their hands to shield their fragile eyes before the flame swallows them whole. Their body hair ignites on the instant, their bare skin blisters, their bowstrings snap in the heat, their screams following close behind. My own state is no prize either. The breath's sheer intensity leaves a sting running from stomach to throat, and a heavy sense of depletion, and after only a few seconds my body cannot keep it up. I cut off and cough hard, the burn blisters in my throat and mouth bursting to give me a taste of metallic sweetness. I throw back my head, roar at the sky, and pounce on the 3 centaurs before they recover. I shout at the 2 idiots, asking what they are waiting for. By now the centaur's hair is fully charred past any color, their bodies a mass of blisters and raw festering skin, and were they not magical creatures with some resistance they would have dropped already. Even so, the all-consuming pain has near enough crushed their will to fight, and seeing me lunge, they can only fumble out their scimitars to counter. Ignoring the blades swinging from both sides, I shift my feet, circle to the side of the spear-bearer, and rake my forelimbs savagely across its abdomen, my sharp claws tearing through the tough equine belly to open several mangled wounds, almost down to the organs. The other 2 scimitars crash heavily into my back, and amid the sparks, a large stretch of my wing membrane tears, and 2 wing bones snap on the spot, hanging limp. The pain does not make me shrink, it lights the ferocity in my blood, and I twist clear of the spear stabbing down from in front, and claw the same belly again, this strike nearly ripping the whole abdomen open until some of the intestines spill loose. Just then, 2 more flashes of fire bloom in the distance with arrogant shouting, Sistana proclaiming herself the Queen of Flames who will burn them all to ash, Carp roaring at the hoofed maggots to feel the ruin of fire. Their flame rolls out a size smaller than mine, but impressive all the same, and it engulfs the 3 centaurs along with me, though to me it is only a slight warmth that does nothing to slow my attack. With the 2 of them arriving, the fight is already decided, and before long 3 disemboweled centaur corpses lie on the ground. The hard combat and my own wounds leave me dragging once I stop, and I glance at Sistana and Carp, both grimacing as they lick the blood off themselves, and let a faint, almost invisible flicker of approval show. Stupid and short-tempered as the 2 are, they at least face danger head-on, where a cunning green dragon would have fled without a fight. Once my breathing steadies, I call them over, take a corpse in my mouth, and drag it toward the great barrel. On the way, I glance at the notification at the bottom of my vision, and am startled to find my essence of mental power has jumped nearly 6 points. Those 3 centaurs plainly, and especially the 3 notifications of a point and more each, stand out sharply. Recalling the timing, it matches the very instant they died, and I wonder whether the emotion a creature throws off in the breath before death runs unusually strong. The thought only flickers before I set it aside, since the fire from the fight has surely drawn the main centaur force by now and we must hurry. We haul the corpse to the great barrel, and I drape the thing over 1,000 pounds across the cask disguised as rubble, then pull a tough sinew from a horse hoof and tie a dead knot to the trigger on top. Everything is ready, waiting on the centaurs to come collect their fallen comrades, and themselves. The withered weeds the dragon breath set alight keep burning long after the fight, the night wind pushing the flames to spread in every direction. Lunarus watches the distant blaze with unease churning up in his chest and waves a hand. A tawny centaur pulls an ox horn from his back, sets it to his lips and blows with all his strength, the deep call rolling far across the waste, so the scattered rangers turn and gather toward it. The centaurs sent out begin returning one by one, but as the minutes pass, the small team dispatched toward the firelight still does not appear, and Lunarus's heart sinks to the floor. Could 3 red hatchlings defeat 3 rangers? By every measure it should be flatly impossible, their breath organs immature, their magic unwoken. No different from ordinary beasts, but for a stronger build, while his warriors are seasoned and sturdy and armed with spear and blade and longbow and heavy arrow. Some accident must have happened. He waits no longer, leading the gathered team in a gallop toward the fire, iron hooves hammering thunder out of the ground, dust rising like a rolling yellow dragon. A charging centaur is a terrifying thing, near 70 kilometers an hour, almost 20 meters every second, and the blaze swells before them until swirling tongues of flame ring the very ground underfoot. The faint heat does nothing to slow them, and stepping over red-hot sparks they reach the place where I fought, and see the 2 corpses at once. Their once brave warriors are unrecognizable now, charred black, covered in bite and claw marks, fat and flesh sizzling in the flames, the air thick with a sick mingling of scorched stench and the smell of roasting meat from the Maillard reaction. The ranks erupt after a stunned silence, some retching, all of them roaring that they cannot let the 3 reptiles go. Lunarus grinds his teeth, his bloodshot eyes scanning, and counts only 2 corpses, the 3rd missing, likely dragged off his food, and a centaur near a ton is not light to drag, so there will be marks. Sure enough, they find a drag trail close by, and past the edge of the wildfire a wide swath of flattened grass, spattered with blood. He leaves a few behind to gather the remains and orders the rest to follow him, and the thunder of hooves rolls out across the waste again as the team pursues the way I went. From far off I hear those hoofbeats roll across the land, lift my head to the black wilderness, and grin a cold grin. I call Sistana and Carp, and dart away low to the ground, but this time I do not run far, stopping over 1,000 meters off in a patch of dense grass to wait. Our dark vision shows the night plainly, and the faint black dots in the distance swell into centaur shapes. The corpse draped over the great barrel stands out starkly on the open waste. Following the trail, Lunarus and his group spot their fallen comrade almost at once, charred and torn like the other 2, blood seeping from the wounds and nearly soaking the small pile of rubble beneath. What puzzles them is that the hatchlings did not eat this one, and they wonder whether there was simply no time or whether some eerie ritual is at work. They fan into a loose ring around the body, gazes raking the dark, but find no sign of us, and most likely conclude the red reptiles heard the hooves and fled ahead. The night that blinds the hawks also hides our small tracks, the very reason the centaurs split their forces in the first place, and handed us the opening. The centaurs curse the vanished dragon whelps, the hiding reptiles, some stamping their forehooves in frustration. And Lunarus, raging but holding his composure, gestures 2 of them forward to collect the body. They grip both sides of the 1,000-pound corpse with their thick arms and heave it up, never noticing the sinew pulled from a horse hoof and buried deep in the rubble, which stretches as the body lifts until it parts with a sharp snap. The trigger fires, flints striking, gunpowder catching, and Lunarus feels crisis surge from his heart, every hair standing as though he faces a Balor out of the abyss. He opens his mouth to shout a warning, but faster than his voice the rubble pile swells before his eyes. A spark flashes into blinding glare, a deafening roar fills the world, and pain blooms from every part of him. A massive fireball bursts in the air, the shockwave hurling the nearby centaurs off their hooves, and worse, the rubble and needleberry seeds on the cask turn into high-speed blades that shred centaur flesh without mercy. It is all too sudden. Who could imagine 3 hatchlings laying hands on such a bomb, when in this world of swords and magic gunpowder lives only with the Gif, the dwarves, the gnomes, and the goblins? Lunaris is lucky. He stood far enough back, and most of the fragments flying at him are caught by the comrades in front. He is strong enough besides. His challenge rating is high as 12, setting him at the threshold of a high-level adventurer. His long-trained body tough as steel. The magic in his blood a second layer of armor. Even so, a sharp pain rakes one side of his face and several gruesome holes open in his lower body, and as the explosion's ringing fades the wails reach him, a scene of utter ruin, severed limbs, scattered everywhere, blood near to soaking the ground. Almost none of the centaurs who rode in with him are whole, clutching their wounds and crying out, some lying still and already past breath. In the distance, a giant fireball flashes and a thunderous roar follows, the massive flame climbing the high sky bit by bit until it spreads into a spectacular mushroom cloud. Sistana and Carp shudder at the earth-shaking blast, and I shoot them a look of disdain, watching the orange-red glow fade into the dark, the cold sneer already on my mouth sharpening. Ignoring my 2 cowardly, cheap siblings, I step out of the bushes and head straight for the blast. As the distance closes, the misery of the centaurs fills my eyes, the air heavy with blood and charred flesh, and I cannot help drawing a deep breath, finding it exceptionally sweet. My open footsteps catch the survivors' attention at once, their faces turning to me thick with rage and hatred, and lit by the burning grass, I swagger to within 100 meters and squat down on the spot. I ask the hoofed bastards how it felt to fly, whether it was not exceptionally wonderful. The careless mockery ignites their fury, and they roar and try to drag themselves up, only for every motion to pull at their wounds and stab them with fresh pain, cursing the reptile, swearing to kill me. The few less wounded barely shift their hooves before I dart backward like a startled wildcat, leaving only my sharp voice trailing behind. I ask whether they are sure they want to abandon their injured comrades to keep chasing me, reminding them I still have 2 siblings out here and whether they are not afraid the pair will take the chance to do something ugly. The words land like a viper's flickering tongue and freeze their hooves, and they cast about the dark waste, wary of striking their own kind, feeling as if a hideous evil dragon might lurk in every patch of shadow. Lunaris never imagined that after clearly beating that young red dragon he would fall to its hatchlings. Where did this one get a bomb, a massive flame over 10 meters across, more powerful than a great fireball spell? Never mind those insidious stone fragments. With grief and resentment tangled in his chest, he forces himself up through the pain, reaches back for his longbow, and knocks a blood-stained arrow. His one remaining eye sees poorly in the dark, but the sharp intuition of long training lets him fix on the red hatchling's heading by sound. As the magic in his body gathers down his arm into the bow and the string draws back, the arrow kindles with a piercing white light. A prickling like needles stops my taunt cold, my claws gripping the ground, my spine arching high, and in the next moment I see a meteor of an arrow streaking at me. I hurl myself aside, but a sharp pain still rakes my left side where a long bloody gash tears open. So this is the strength of a high-tier professional in this world, able to loose a killing strike at any moment, even gravely wounded. The pain does not anger me, it sets me laughing wildly, the sharp clear sound ringing across the waste full of mockery. I tell him a fine shot, a pity his aim ran a touch off, asking whether that is because being blind in one eye he can no longer see the target clearly. I offer to stop and give him another chance, then add that by the look of his body he is already useless. Teeth grind among the centaurs, and watching the essence of mental power notifications float endlessly past my eyes, I cannot help a surge of pleasure. I proclaim to them all to remember that the one who beat them is the great Sol Heliozog Ethermog Suncrier Throatburner, and that one day they will all tremble beneath my iron wings. The voice fades like a proclamation, and a deathly silence settles over the survivors, a strange dread welling up. This red young dragon carries a red dragon's brutal strength and a green dragon's cunning both, and grown up the consequences are unthinkable. Their fury sinks gradually into deep fear, so that if they survive on some far midnight they may still recall everything that happened tonight. The reason I ran out in front of them to mock them was partly the evil dragon blood acting up, but more than that to gather essence of mental power. The stuff works like faith, springing from the strong emotion and thought of intelligent beings, and so needing a clear target. It is why gods spread their divine names and holy symbols, and demons keep their exclusive nicknames. Only by giving the centaurs a concrete sense of me, ideally by setting them to spread my name, can I harvest as much as possible. Otherwise their resentment fixes only on a red hatchling, and the world holds no shortage of red hatchlings, none of which would stand for me. With the matter settled, I cannot help wincing, my old wing wound not yet healed, and a new gash added, a burning pain in every step. But seeing the essence balance grown to 15 points and still creeping up brings a real warmth of pleasure. After a moment's thought, I withdraw the blue mushroom I drew earlier. The air ripples and a blue fungus over half a meter tall appears, and it is said that if this kind grows on the corpse of some powerful monster, it can shoot up over 3 meters, the size of a small building. I wonder whether I could grow it in this world, whether once I hold my own territory I might cultivate some and sell them to humans as magic potion stock. A tidy little business. With that, I stuffed the whole mushroom into my stomach and returned to where I left Sistana and Carp. finding the two of them wagging their tails in excitement, rushing to meet me. They ask whether that explosion came from the cask we buried, crowing that it was wonderful, begging for another, and Carp gripes that I only announced my own name and should have let the four-legged bastards know. There is also the great Sistana. I glance at the idiots, give each a slap, waste no more words, and wag my tail as I lead them off, certain that after tonight those centaurs will not dare keep up the chase. Now we need only find a fit home and develop in peace for a few decades. And once we reach young adulthood, with no pursuers behind us, the three of us slow our pace a great deal. Though we call it traveling, we are really only drifting through the boundless wilderness, venturing out to hunt under cover of dark when night falls and burrowing into some hidden corner when the sun climbs. Danger is never absent out here, for besides centaurs there are other orcs and dire beasts lurking everywhere, and several times we blunder into another creature's territory, though our keen senses and quick reflexes carry us out each time without trouble. In a blink more than 2 months pass, and as they do, I find I can sense the magic elements drifting everywhere in the air more and more clearly. Tiny crimson motes float like fireflies that thicken the nearer they lie to the sun overhead, and small yellowish-brown specks seep up from the ground now and then like weathered grains of sand. These are fire and earth elements, 2 of the 4 basic elements that make the world, and I draw them in with every breath. Red dragons are not purely fire creatures, but carry a heavy earth attribute too, and by adulthood or old age or long-held nesting grounds will even bond on their own with the fire and earth elemental planes and become active volcanoes in time. As my read on the magic elements sharpens, my power to absorb them rises with it, and the chain reaction is that my growth picks up speed again. My length from nose to tail has reached 11 feet now, and though most of that is still tail and neck, my torso already runs as large as a young foal's. Sistana and Carp, finally stretched to 7 feet on the crystals I share now and then, look a full age group smaller standing beside me. The price of this speed is that I have converted most of my essence of mental power into dragon crystals and swallowed them down. This substance, gathered from leyline energy and an elder dragon's life force, is a genuinely high-grade magic crystal in its way. Any other true dragon watching me devour it so wastefully would likely struggle to breathe from the heartache, even with none of it their own. The weather turns colder by the day, the wild grass shifting from mingled yellow and green to a complete withered yellow, and a layer of silver frost forms in the small hours of the morning. Before the snow falls, the three of us finally come upon a range of low hills, dozens of small mud and stone rises strung out in a chain, the highest probably under 1,000 meters. Any way you look at it, the place beats the endless flat, its nearby growth lush, a small lake not far off. Where there is water, there is always life, and even if red dragons need not drink, the lake will draw prey enough for us. We stop a few kilometers out as a matter of course, since unusual terrain always pulls in its matching monsters, and some dangerous thing might be holed up in these hills. We hide in a thicket of dense withered grass, screening our bright scales behind the long yellowed blades until nightfall before crawling out. I shake out my wings, the torn membranes and snapped bones of 2 months ago long since healed and grown larger, my wingspan now reaching an exaggerated 17 feet. Fine scarlet scales over the surface, and a magnificent sunset blue along the inner edges of the membranes. One flap lifts my 11-foot body off the ground on the airflow and the steadily thickening magic within me, and I ride the night breeze toward the distant hills. In low mountain and forest country like this, there are rarely any overly powerful dire creatures, and aerial overlords that live in flocks, griffins and giant eagles, are even less likely to turn up, which is why I feel safe enough to scout from the air. My broad-wing membranes catch the wind, and let me glide easily like a large pterosaur, holding a low pass 200 or 300 meters up as I circle the whole hill. Evergreen trees flash beneath me, and now and then I catch sight of wild boars and river deer. But when my gaze swings toward the lakeside, my eyes narrow. There is a vast, gentle slope where, as the elevation drops, water and soil mix into a small swamp, and in the part nearest the mountains I can make out signs of rough cultivation. At the foot of the slope sit more than a dozen large holes near 2 meters across. Are there intelligent creatures living here, I wonder? Kobolds or goblins? My pale gold pupils fixed on the remains of a campfire on the ground, my thoughts racing without landing on an answer. The good news, at least, is that there are no overly dangerous monsters in this hill country, and whatever intelligent things den in those caves are plainly not powerful. I glide back to the grass where Sistana and Carp wait, and the thought that I, the boss, have had to run reconnaissance myself sends a senseless anger rising in me, so the instant I land my long tail whistles out and cracks across both their heads. They nearly jump from the pain, roaring up at me demanding to know what madness has gotten into me, why I am attacking them. I answer with my fists, 2 more thumps to their skulls, telling them to shut up, that as the boss I need no reason for what I do, and they need only obey without question. Watching their dragon faces flush red with swallowed rage, and the essence of mental power notifications climbing in my sight, I finally feel a warm flush of satisfaction. Then I turn and lead the 2 of them toward the low hills, running through the overgrown woods straight for the highest peak. At a suitable spot, the 3 of us start digging hard into the mountain, and with a true dragon's hard claws we tear out a fairly deep pit fast. Then we hit the trouble, the soft surface soil giving way beneath the solid rock that resists us, and in only a short while our claws are worn painful enough that we have to stop. Still, the cave has taken rough shape and can just barely serve as shelter. So the three of us, spent from the night's labor, snuggle and squeeze inside, rake the loose soil over ourselves once more, and so meet our first dawn in our new home. I perch on the branch of an elm with my slender tail coiled tight around the trunk, my pale gold pupils fixed on the gentle slope below the mountain. Half the setting sun hangs in the far sky like an orange-red poached egg, staining the clouds in every shade of color. In that dying light, a dozen odd creatures shaped like wild boars wallow in the mud at the edge of the swamp, rolling about in lazy comfort. They are boarmen standing 5 to 6 feet tall and running 200 to 350 pounds. Their fat, upright bodies walk like men but carry boar heads crowned with jutting tusks, their hides thick and brown-black under a coat of coarse bristles with a heavy layer of fat beneath. As a branch of the orcs, they are not bright and have almost no gift for any magical profession, but their raw inborn strength and the shock resistance of all that skin and fat give them a challenge rating of 1/2. With training, full plate, and proper weapons, they could grow into passable heavy warriors and climb to a rating of 2 or 3. I glance at the information beneath the wheel in my mind, where the age line has ticked over from hatchling dragon to strong hatchling dragon, and my own challenge rating has crept from 4 to 4 and above. The ordinary boarmen do not catch my eye. What I am truly watching are a few unusually tall ones among the small herd, their bristles coarser and harder than the rest, their limb muscles cut and defined, a faint crimson bleeding through the brown-black of their hides. Those are boarmen berserkers. Some orcs carry the berserk gene in their blood and can drop into a frenzy without any training at all. When frenzied, their strength, speed, and stamina all surge while they lose all fear of pain and fatigue, staying that way until the fight ends or their bodies collapse outright. With the right heavy weapons, those berserkers could pose me some trouble, though whether a band of wild boarmen out here even knows what metal is remains an open question. I sense an opportunity in all of this. My only way of gathering essence of mental power is to feed on the strong feelings that other thinking creatures aim at me, so if I can bend these boarmen to my will, I gain a fresh source of it. Their intelligence sits at a miserable 7, far under the human average of 10, but that should, I tell myself, perhaps, still be enough to count them as an intelligent race. Mind made up, I decide to honor the grand old tradition of evil dragonkind and take these boarmen as my vassals. If they refuse to submit, then I will simply burn the lot of them, since how can a dragon let others sleep soundly at the foot of his own bed? On the last glimmer of sunset, I spread my broad wings and glide back to the cave I dug into the mountaintop. Sistana and Carp have only just woken, eyes half-lidded and bleary, mumbling nonsense to themselves. Nearly every true dragon must sleep enormous stretches through the hatchling stage, since it speeds the body's growth and trims down both the energy they burn and the hunting they must risk. I have no patience to wait for the two of them to surface on their own, so I swing a claw and slap both heads hard. The sharp pain snaps their eyes wide as they spring off the ground like loose springs and glare daggers at me. I tell the two lazy fools that as their elder brother I am already awake while they dare to keep snoring. A small herd of boarmen lives at the foot of the mountain, and they will follow me down to conquer it this very night. The instant the word conquer lands, every scrap of their anger at being hit drains away, the instinct surging up through their bloodlines lighting them on fire for any act of conquest. Sistana crows that a boarmen tribe will make the first vassals of the Flame Queen, and Carp demands to know whether there is treasure and insists he gets first pick when the time comes. I look at my two idiot siblings with my usual contempt, my body a size larger than theirs throwing a heavy shadow over them. I stare into their eyes and tell them flatly that whether it is vassals or treasure, it is all mine, every scrap of it mine. Two weak fools I could crush with a single claw have no right to own a thing. Naturally, they will not agree, but when my iron fist comes crashing down, they discover they have no right to argue either. Lesson delivered. I turn my mind to the wheel just to be safe and tap the small square for burning stone carbon. 1 point of essence of mental power drains away. The air ripples like struck water, and a slab of pitch-black stone carbon blooms out of nothing. Same as I did with the centaurs, I scoop it off the ground and crunch into it, the fine carbon dust sliding down into my furnace of a stomach. Soon a wave of heat rolls through my whole body as though I had swallowed a barrel of strong liquor. I toss the smaller remaining half to Sistana and Carp, and without a word from me, the two start gnawing on instinct. Fully charged, the three of us beat our wings into the sky and sweep toward the slope, like a small patch of orange-red sunset cloud. Dusk is the most comfortable hour of the day for the boarmen. They pile up the fruits and tubers gathered through the day, the crustaceans and worms dug from the riverbanks, and whatever prey they caught, and make their one meal of the day from it. The law of the jungle rules the feeding, so the tallest, strongest males eat first, then the young females and the cubs, and only at the very end the old. Grok curls in a corner watching his clansmen eat their fill, hoping only that some scraps will be left for him. He is past 40 this year, a great old age for a boarman, and the harsh wilderness piled on the old wounds of his youth has aged him far beyond his years. His once needle-stiff bristles have gone gray, his tough skin slack and elastic no longer, his fat wasting until it hangs off him like a tattered leather sack. He feels in his bones he will not see the far side of this winter. His failing body means he can no longer bring back enough food when he goes out, and the looks his kin throw him have curdled from simple dislike into open disgust. In the wilderness, every resource is precious, and no one will waste any on a useless thing that cannot feed the tribe. And if it came to it, they would gladly recycle the useless for parts. When the snow falls and the food thins further, he will surely die, perhaps long before then. By his own reckoning, Grok is already the longest-lived Borman there has ever been, and yet he does not want to die, not even a little. As long as one sliver of hope for survival remains, he refuses to give it up. The cruel reality, the brutal land, and his indifferent companions leave him unable to see a single road to living, so he can only pray, begging the great father of tusks and the mother of Ironmane for mercy, asking to be allowed to live. As if his pious plea were heard, 3 orange-red sunset clouds appear at some point in the darkening sky and come whistling toward him. The heat boiling off the digesting stone carbon sets the blood of all 3 of us roaring, and Sistana whoops at us to charge, and Carp howls to burn all the filthy swine to ash. Like 3 blazing red clouds, we slam straight into the bonfire ringed by the Borman, the force of our landing flinging unburnt wood in every direction like fireworks. A few who could not dodge are splattered with sparks, their thick manes catching at once as they shriek in panic, and more Borman leap up scrambling to scatter in every direction. The berserkers I had marked, though, snatch up their weapons and let savage light glint in their small eyes, growling at the exploding fire. I shake the embers off my scales, raise my thick neck, and sweep the herd with my gaze. A hatchling dragon's head is round by nature, the horns and spikes not yet grown in, so by rights I ought to look almost cute. But the burning stone carbon in my belly is throwing off such a flood of heat that the air around me warps, scorching breaths puffing steadily from my nostrils and the corners of my mouth. When I roar at the sky, undigested carbon dust sprays out and bursts into rolling flame the instant it meets the air. I demand of the filthy stupid swine why they do not kneel at the sight of a great true dragon, and Sistana and Carp bellow at them from my flanks to kneel, hurry up and kneel. The common Borman, cowed by our fierce aura, shrink back without meaning to, but the berserkers, nearly 7 feet tall, are instantly enraged by the insult. Blood rushing to their heads, their eyes bloodshot, their skin flushing red with the congestion, and instead of retreating, they raise their bone clubs and wooden staves and press forward. One snarls that 3 underage dragon cubs have no right to give Ruger orders, another swearing he will catch us and throw us in a pot to boil. I shoot a quick glance at the berserker at the very front, suck in a sudden deep breath, and open my mouth. The heat banked in my body, the undigested carbon dust, and the mana drawn up from my primary blood vessels, all transform into a gout of flame that pours out. Only a thin stream at first, it swells fast on the wind until in a blink it spreads to 3 or 4 meters across. The wave of fire sweeps over the berserkers, and the one in the lead, with no time to dodge, is swallowed whole, his mane charred to charcoal in less than a breath. His thick pigskin sizzling as melted fat seeps from bursting blisters. As I swing my head, the 10-meter breath carves a long wall of fire across the ground, and the others who meant to charge from behind pull up short. 2 cannot break in time and plunge headlong into the flames, screaming as they roll frantically in the dirt. Even with pain dulled by the frenzy, being burned head to tail is no agony an ordinary creature can bear. And worse, the thick hair and abundant fat on their bodies are like natural candles, mere impossible to put out once lit. When a sense of weakness washes over me, as if my body had been wrung dry, I cut off the breath at once. Looking at what I have wrought, the evil dragon blood in me boils, and a gleeful grin spreads across the corners of my mouth that, to the watching Borman, must look indescribably hideous and terrible. Some scream and bolt. Some warriors who had gripped their weapons hesitate now, not daring a step forward. Then, one unremarkable-looking Borman suddenly roars that they should cover themselves in mud, that mud-caked hide will not fear the dragon cub's fire. There is actually one among them quick enough to think of that. My gaze narrows and swings toward the speaker, and in the next breath I push off the ground, spread my broad wings, and shoot into the air, crossing dozens of meters in a flash. Once I am above him, I tuck my wings and dive, riding the full downward weight of my body, my crimson-scaled forelimbs pinning the wooden staff he raises with a crisp crack. My momentum unbroken, I step onto his shoulder, then before he can react, my hind legs kick down, my supple neck extends, and I bite clean through his throat in one motion. My claws rip the tough pigskin of his chest and belly open and spill his guts, my hard teeth driving through muscle into the spine and twisting with force, and in the span of a few breaths, the clever one lies dead beneath my mouth. I raise my head slowly from the corpse, my hideous vertical pupils sweeping the field, and roar at the sky for all of them to kneel and welcome their new master, warning that any who dare resist will be turned to ash in the flames. Sistana and Carp catch the bloodlust, wishing they stood where I stand, and at my command, the 2 pounce in every direction like stray dogs off the leash, savaging the surrounding Borman at random. The tall berserkers get special attention. A dragon breath spat at them the moment they draw near. With a stone carbon's boost, that breath runs past 1,000 degrees, far more than a thin smear of mud could ever withstand, so every Borman wrapped in flame collapses in agony. Our bodies are not fully grown, and we can each lose only this single scorching breath by relying on outside fuel, but even one is enough. As the strongest berserkers fall and the fire climbs into the sky, the rest are cowed by that terrible power and can only flee, no longer daring to fight back. Old Grok curls in the mud, trembling as he watches the 3 red dragons slaughter at will. In his youth, he too was a powerful warrior, brave enough to face down dire wolves. But age and frailty drained his spirit away along with his sturdy muscle, leaving only a desperate hunger to live. Then he recalls the words the largest red dragon kept repeating, "Kneel and pledge loyalty," and he reacts in a heartbeat. He crawls forward and cries out for the great red dragon to stay his anger a moment, offering all of lowly Grok's loyalty in exchange for mercy. I stop my pouncing and biting, my fangs and claws already soaked with Borman blood, that smear of crimson piercingly bright in my sight. I look toward the one prostrate on the ground, all but kneeling, his grayish-white fur a ruined mess, his slack skin sagging off a thin small frame, plainly a very old fellow. Yet that one shout rang out like a sudden clap of thunder and jolted the others from their stupor, dull heads coming to their senses one after another as they drop into postures of surrender. Seeing it, I let out a high roar to signal Sistana and Carp to sheath their claws, but the two of them, drunk on slaughter, do not stop until each takes a heavy blow to the forehead. Even then they round on me snarling, Carp demanding to know what I am doing, Sistana demanding on what grounds I make them stop. I seize the pair by their necks, my half-spread wings throwing a heavy shadow in the firelight, and tell them one word at a time that these boar men have already submitted to me, that they are my property now. I ask whether the two of them mean to damage wealth that belongs to me. A heavy pressure rolls over them, and Sistana and Carp dare not resist in the least, only shrinking their heads down and falling silent. I toss the two aside with a backhand, raise my thick supple neck high, hold my head perfectly level, and sweep the field with my pale gold pupils. Blood mixed into the mud congeals to a blackish red. Over half the boarmen lie on the ground, most of them adult males, the great majority no longer breathing, and the survivors all cower face down in the mud, burying their heads, lacking even the courage to lift their eyes to me. I turn my gaze to the old boarman who submitted first and point a casual claw, declaring in a resonant voice that from this day on he is the leader of this herd. I order him to clean up the area and gather every member, telling him I will return at the same hour tomorrow and that he had best not think of running, otherwise. To finish the threat, I spit out a few demonstrative wisps of flame, then beat my wings and vanish into the night, taking Sistana and Carp with me. The boarman's counterattacks left scratches on all three of us in the fight. Nothing serious, but we need to rest and heal as soon as we can. Back in the distant mountaintop cave, Sistana and Carp set to licking their wounds while I close my eyes and lie in a corner, looking for all the world like I am dozing. In truth, I am working through the essence of mental power notifications on the wheel, one by one. The sight nearly makes my brain throb with rage. These boarmen truly live down to their intelligence of 7, and even under the crushing terror of life and death, the essence they throw off is pitifully thin. By the going rate, roughly 10 boarmen are worth 1 centaur, and it takes 10 centaurs to equal a single hatchling dragon, the ratio only shifting when there are enormous emotional swings, or in the last instant before death. Adding the past 2 months of accumulation to the trickle I gathered when some of them died, my current balance of essence of mental power sits at only 15.72. It ought to be more, except that trading for dragon crystals and burning stone carbon has been a heavy drain. It makes me feel this stuff is exactly like my salary from my old life, plainly paid out every month. Yet by the new year I would find not a single cent saved on the card. After a moment's thought, I settle my will on the wheel and tap the dragon crystal square 3 times. 3 points of essence drain, the air before me ripples, and 3 long translucent crystals rise like crystal pillars. I shove one into my own mouth and flick the other 2 towards Sistana and Carp, because without comparison there is no gap, and these 2 stupid siblings of mine are simply high-yield, high-quality crops that I must fertilize more if I want their output to keep climbing. I call out to my foolish weak kin that since they performed reasonably well this time, the Great Sol will be merciful, and tell them to accept their reward with gratitude. The 2 crystals draw lovely arcs through the air, and before either can touch the ground, Sistana and Carp leap up and clutch them to their chests, joy they cannot hide flickering in their eyes. They ignore every insult and ask whether I really mean to give them a whole piece each, Sistana wondering if she might skip eating it this time and keep it in her collection. I shake my head and pull a cold, cruel grin, telling them of course not, to eat it right now, and when the pair still mean to struggle, I add that I will permit whoever finishes eating first to snatch the other's property. That strikes their one true weakness, and almost in unison they cast predatory glares at each other and cram the crystals down their throats. A true dragon's recovery is fierce, ordinary flesh wounds knitting back to whole before long. A day later, the 3 of us are mostly healed, leaving only some damaged or missing scales that will take longer to grow back. At dusk, I spread my wings again and fly to the slope where the boarmen live, my powerful sight picking out from far off the lot of them standing about blank-faced and uneasy, every face filled with terror. At the very front stands the old boarman I appointed myself, and though only 1 night has passed, he seems to have shed several years, even his hunched back a little straighter. I land on a jutting rock on a gust of strong wind, my pale gold pupils sweeping the boarman, and wherever my gaze falls, not one dares meet it. Excluding those who died in yesterday's fight and from severe wounds, there are 27 left, mostly females and cubs with a thin scattering of males and elderly, because the fiercest resistors are already dead and the old were long since weeded out by nature. As they wait in fear for fate's judgment, I let my resonant voice roll out. I tell the lowly, filthy, worthless swine that they should have lived their whole lives in the mud among worms and trash, but that they are lucky to have met the Great Sol, As long as they offer up their insignificant loyalty and conquer this wilderness alongside me, I will bestow on them endless strength and food. After a brief silence, the old Borman steps forward ahead of the rest and shouts that the Great Saul's most loyal servant will follow me for a lifetime. And after that, the sounds of submission rise one after another. For the Borman, bending the knee to a red dragon is genuinely the best choice they have. Their bloodline caps them so hard that even a full-grown one is barely stronger than an ordinary human, and that paired with their dim wits leaves them utterly unable to build any real civilization, blocking nearly every path upward they might have climbed. What keeps them alive out here, besides their inborn berserker talent, is only a broad diet and robust breeding. To be honest, they are worse off than kobolds and goblins, since goblins now and then throw up an unusually clever individual, and kobolds have their own god, while the Borman have nothing. So if they can attach to something powerful enough, even at the price of everything they have including their lives, they win vaster territory, richer food, and basic safety, and the whole race breeds more successfully for it. These ones becoming my followers is frankly a case of reaching well above their station, but who lets me still be only a hatchling dragon with strength to spare? So I have to make do with whatever is usable for now. Looking over the burns and scratches on the kneeling Borman, I think a moment, then settle my mind and tap the grid for the blue mushroom on the wheel. Light ripples and swirls in the air, and a giant mushroom nearly half a meter tall materializes into my outstretched claw before I toss it down to the Borman. I tell the insignificant swine it is a reward for their offered loyalty and will help them heal better, but warn that each swine gets only one bite and no one is permitted to eat more. Since they are my property now, I naturally want to keep their deaths to a minimum. The same way a farmer never skimps on fertilizer and a landlord feeds his livestock ample fodder, because only that way do they reap a greater return. Fear makes the prostrate Borman hesitate, but the old one reacts fastest, crawling forward 2 steps to pick up the mushroom and take a bite, a delicious flavor exploding in his mouth, the finest thing he has tasted in his whole life. For a moment, he can barely resist taking several more. At the critical instant, he masters the greed, lowers his head, and passes the mushroom back to the Borman behind him. That one has no such self-control. The vast majority of Borman, with their low intelligence, run entirely on instinct, and the moment the delicious mushroom touches its tongue, saliva floods its mouth, and it utterly forgets my order, gaping wide for another fierce bite. Standing on the rock, I watch, and my pale gold vertical pupils snap to slits, a lowly swine, daring to defy my command. The fury kindles in me at once, and with a flap of my wings I dive off the rock, crossing the 10-odd meters in an instant, my broad wings throwing a heavy shadow as a red-scaled claw descends, and pins the greedy thing flat. I stand on it, press its head down with a foreclaw, open my ferocious maw, and loose a dragon breath, a pillar of fire thick as my fist, scorching its head precisely so it shrieks and thrashes, never able to break the dragon's grip. In a short moment, its whole upper body is burned black before everyone's eyes, and it moves no more. The unique stench of burnt protein fills the air, and the watching boarmen go silent as cicadas in winter. I sweep them with an indifferent glance, spread my wings, land back on the rock, and roar that this is the fate of all who dare defy me. The kneeling boarmen wish now they could bury their whole bodies in the dirt, uncontrollable fear pouring off them and turning into essence of mental power notifications in my sight. After that, not one dares to be greedy, and they all follow my instruction, taking only a single bite. One mushroom split among more than 20 of them means each gets only a sliver, but however much of its healing they actually draw from it, it is better than nothing. Once all of them have eaten, I look them over again, extend a claw, point out the few strongest, and tell those ones I want to see them at the foot of the tallest mountain when the sun rises tomorrow. This stretch of dozens of low earthen hills obviously cannot support just a few dozen boarmen, and large numbers of herbivores and rodents live here too. I soar high, my flight strengthened by the pterodactyl template letting me ride the updrafts in easy sustained glides. Under cover of dark, I close on prey in silence and soon take my dinner for the day. Eaten and watered, I fly back to the mountaintop cave, ignore Sistana and carp roughhousing, and focus once more on the wheel. Of the previous 15 points of essence, 3 went to dragon crystal and 1 to the blue mushroom. And with the bit gained since I have 12 left, drawing a low-grade monster template is still a distant dream. So should I try an environmental creature again? Having already tasted the benefits of the pterodactyl template, I do not hesitate much and tap the wheel firmly. A full 10 points drain in an instant, and the second ring rumbles and turns. Points of light darting like neon before settling at last on a small grid showing a crude drawing of a frog. The system congratulates me on the gas frog biological template, and asks whether to extract it now, and I call up what I know of the creature. They look like pet horned frogs, brightly colored but a size larger, a rather unusual sort of frog, feeding on insects and crustaceans and sometimes swallowing ores. Depending on diet and habitat, they can expel gas with paralyzing, explosive, hypnotic, or highly toxic effects. The ability is quite good, and I glance at the compatibility rating shown at the back, 68%. By the detailed notes, that means the higher the compatibility, the more complete the abilities I keep, while anything under 50% fails outright from ability conflict, and can even bring negative effects. 68 is already high, perhaps because we both carry a fire attribute and both run powerful digestive systems. I choose to extract without hesitation. In the next instant, a ball of light wrapping the gas frog spirit essence forms out of thin air and lunges hard at my face. A familiar scorching sensation surges from within me, pale blue notification text flashing in steady streams. Because our body structures differ too much, the great majority of the abilities fail to load and dissolve into pure vitality, but the core of it, the power to convert food into various gases, is preserved. Snow begins to drift lazily from the sky, the falling flakes sliding slowly down the mountain's contours, the withered yellow grass stems coated in pure white, the ground looking as though sprinkled with fine icy sand. More than a month has passed since I subdued the Boormen, and thanks to those free laborers, generally strong and robust with decent endurance, the cave where the three of us live has expanded considerably. My body has grown another half foot, my length now nearing 12 feet, and I sprawl on a pebble-covered platform inside the cave, a foot-long plume of hot air surging from my nostrils with every breath. As a red dragon, I despise the cold by nature, and the swirling wind and snow outside kill any thought of venturing out. But as long as a creature lives, it must always draw energy from the world, even gods needing to absorb faith, and only true dragons of a certain power can sustain themselves wholly on magical elements. As a hatchling dragon, I cannot avoid eating, or after a winter my growth would be badly stunted even if I did not starve outright. I need to eat but do not want to move. What is to be done? My half-closed eyes snap open and fall on my two cheap kin. There is no hope at all in the Boormen, who in this season of scarcity can barely keep themselves alive on the fat they banked in autumn, so expecting them to hunt and feed me would be less convenient than simply eating them. But Sistana and Carp are true dragons, young still, yet able to manage simple hunting, and I need a way to make them willingly deliver prey straight to my mouth. Bare coercion would only have them feign obedience and secretly defy me, lying that they caught nothing while I cannot watch them every moment. My eyes shift, and after a beat the corner of my mouth curls into a smug smile. I trade for a piece of dragon crystal as usual, think a moment, shove it into my mouth and bite it fiercely. Then I hold up the remaining small piece and growl low. I tell my foolish younger siblings that their elder brother, the great Saul, future master of this wilderness, has decided to be merciful and offer them a chance to get rich. For the next 10 days, each of them will bring me prey, and whoever brings back more gets this magic crystal. The two of them, who had been lying about dozing in boredom, jerk their heads up the instant they hear it, eyes locking onto the crystal in my claw and gleaming bright. Then, as if remembering something, they ask warily whether I mean to make them eat it again, swearing that if so they will not do it no matter what, and I can give up the idea. I shake my head calmly and tell them no, that this time they have full rights over the magic crystal, that whether they eat it or keep it as treasure is entirely their choice. Conflict shows in their eyes, neither wanting to go out in the cold, but the thought of treasure tips them. In the end, Sistana decides first, kicking Carp aside and charging out into the wind and snow, declaring she will go first today, and that I had better keep my word. Watching that crimson figure vanish into the storm, I flick my tail in contentment, then turn to Carp, who lingers in the cave. I tell him temptingly that if Sistana has good luck today and catches large prey, it will be hard for him to surpass her tomorrow. So why not start working now, catch some prey to store, and hand it over with tomorrow's haul, giving himself a better chance to win this shiny magic crystal. As I speak, I shake the crystal in my claw, his gaze chasing its every movement, and at last he swallows hard, turns, and rushes out into the cold too. The cave falls silent in an instant, leaving only my faintly echoing verdict that the two of them are fools. The harsh wilderness winter does not last too long, at least not by my reckoning. After paying the price of a few small pieces of dragon crystal, and living on the offerings Sistana and Carp drag in, I sleep in comfort straight through to spring. When the first warm breeze of early spring blows, the banked snow begins to melt, water sinking into the ground while plants race to push up tender buds. I crawl from the cave, stretch with my joints and scales clicking, and feel the pure vitality from the pterodactyl and gas frog templates finally taking hold. That, with the energy from the dragon crystals, has grown me noticeably again, my length now reaching 13 feet. My back wings especially broad, their span an exaggerated 20 feet fully spread. Even without my inborn spell-like abilities, the raw force of my wing beats alone is probably enough to push my body into flight now. Restless after being still so long, I decide on a long-awaited hunt and leap into the high sky with a single beat, circling out and away. Passing the Boorman's slope, I take a moment to look in on my vassals, and find their numbers down by a few more over the winter. Whether frozen or lost on some foraging road, I cannot say. This is the norm for so many wilderness creatures born in spring and dead in winter like wild grass, and only the truly powerful individuals and races weather one brutal winter after another. That is exactly why the Boormen, for all their boar-like breeding, have never grown numerous. This cannot continue. When I subdued them, I lost too many of the prime adult males who were their main strength, and without intervention their numbers will not merely fail to recover, but will fall off sharply. I begin to ponder how to raise the Boorman count, the simplest answer being to hunt for them myself, since with food plentiful their breeding would multiply them fast. But the arrogance in my red dragon blood throws that idea out the moment it surfaces. Perhaps teach them simple farming instead, though with an intelligence of 7, could they even learn? And And where would I find suitable livestock and crop seeds anyway? Unable to settle it for now, I decide to stop racking my brains and fill my belly first. Over the past half year, I have come to know this region of low hills and rolling ground thoroughly, and since I have met no overly dangerous dire beasts or formidable raptors, I decide to widen my hunting range this time. Crossing the hills, the same endless wilderness greets me, the snow-melt soil saturated, and a fertile blackish-brown dense green grass tips already showing. A groundhog pokes its head cautiously from underground, and not far off, beneath a thicket of thorns, lies a rabbit burrow. None of it escapes my sharp eye, though I lost all interest in such small prey long ago. What truly draws me is that moving hill in the distance. Before me stands a herd of bison giant horn cattle, over 8 feet tall at the shoulder, nearly 5 meters long, easily 1.5 tons each. Their massive bodies are covered in dense, almost black-brown hair, prominent humps on their shoulders and backs, their limbs thick and sturdy, their hooves broad, and from the sides of their heads curve a pair of horns nearly 6 feet long. As social animals, they usually move in small family bands of 10 to 30. With that enormous size and the sharp weapons on their heads, few predators dare provoke them lightly. The herd before me runs close to 50, a very large group, wandering the wilderness and nibbling fresh sprouted grass like moving mountains of meat. My gaze locks onto the smaller calves at their center as my spread wings fold a little and I begin my dive. The aura of a top predator spreads out, and panic seizes the herd at once, the strong bulls forming a ring on instinct to shield the cows and calves in the middle. For ordinary predators, that defense is brutally effective, since even a ferocious lion would not care to be gored on 6-foot horns. In the past, I might have managed only to harass the edges with a bleeding tactic, or burn through a load of stone carbon to force a kill with dragon breath. But after loading the gas frog template, I have a better way. When my altitude drops under 10 meters from the ground, I stop descending and switch to low hovering, drawing a deep breath. In my abdominal cavity near the stomach, a newly grown sac secretes a unique oily fluid that surges up the esophagus into my throat, is heated to high temperature, and bursts out with my breath as billowing thick smoke. The sky-darkening smoke swallows most of the herd in an instant, carrying toxins with it, and the bison giant horn cattle that breathe it in soon feel dizzy, their muscles stiffening. The toxicity is not yet enough to drop these robust cattle, but the blinded vision and the bodily distress plunge them into instinctive panic, and the once tight defensive ring collapses without a fight as nearly all of them scatter. My sharp gaze locks onto a calf just over 1 meter long, and carrying the force of my descent, I pounce, pinning it to the ground, my open maw bearing coldly gleaming teeth as I bite down on its neck. My powerful jaw muscles clamp the arteries shut until its brain suffocates for lack of oxygen, and it soon falls still. As the smoke disperses in the spring breeze, the herd is nowhere in sight, leaving only me and the calf's corpse. The meat is extremely delicious, tender and springy, whetting my appetite badly, and after a ravenous feast, only scattered bones and a hind leg saved for dinner remain. I pat my round belly and look toward the distant herd, thinking that if I could capture some to raise, they would make decent livestock, but my present strength is too thin, and my subordinates too few to support the idea. I only hope this herd lingers nearby a while longer, so I can eat a few more. In nature, no nutrients go to waste, and not long after I leave, several wilderness sand foxes are drawn by the scent of blood. Then carrion-feeding vultures begin descending from the sky, fighting over the scraps left on the bones, now and then loosing hoarse cries and shrill shrieks of anger. At that moment, 2 humanoid figures appear on the distant horizon, wearing sleeveless leather vests, under tattered cowhide cloaks. One with a crude battle axe strapped to his back, the other carrying a curved sword at his waist, and a long wooden-handled leather whip. By their dress, they resemble the nomad tribes of my past life, but their rough, exposed skin has a faint grayish-green tint, with jutting lower jaws and obvious tusks marking them as orcs. Seeing the distant flock of vultures and sand foxes, the 2 quicken their pace and rush over, one lashing his long whip into the air with a sharp crack that scatters the startled foxes and birds in a flurry, and bears the skeleton they had ringed. One orc takes a single glance and roars in fury that some damned thief has dared steal and eat his cattle, swearing to skin it alive if he catches it. The older, more composed one crouches and examines the remains, twitching his nose now and then as if sniffing for something. Then he says no, that by the bite marks on the bones and the prints on the ground, this was left by a dragon. The young orc snorts a laugh, plainly disbelieving, and tells the elder not to joke, asking why the lords from the Dragon Fortress would come here when they prefer dry sand or dense forest, that he must be mistaken. The elder grabs the young one's clothing and pulls him down close to the bones, calling him a fool and swearing he is not wrong. He tells him to think back to when they delivered food to those young dragons before, asking whether the traces left behind were not exactly like these. The young orc thinks carefully, cold sweat beading on his brow, since the claw prints and tooth marks do indeed resemble the young dragon's work, though the scent in the air is somewhat unfamiliar. He breathes that another young dragon must have appeared nearby, and that they must report to the master at once, fretting only over the cattle that will be eaten up. The elder snaps to forget the cattle, that if they linger any longer, they will not even keep their lives. I have no idea the calf I hunted was someone else's livestock. By now I have already flown back to my cave with the 2 hind legs and lie sprawled lazily on my stone bed. When I focus on the wheel, the displayed balance of essence of mental power has once more climbed past 20 points. This time I have no intention of drawing more environmental creatures, and only trade for a piece of burning stone carbon to nibble slowly as an after-meal snack.